Hey guys, welcome to WDWNT Nerd Alert. I'm your host, Joe Hogarty, and joining me tonight is Jack McCarthy.
Evening, folks.
And Taylor Catcher is off today. So tonight what we're going to do is we're introducing a new segment called Head to Head. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare two similar movies and decide which one is the superior film. And the movies that we will be going over tonight are going to be Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back and Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
The best sequels in a science fiction franchise.
I can say that. I definitely would agree with you on that. But there probably are a couple more. But yeah, I will have to say, I'm just all of a sudden Terminator 2 popped into my head, But yeah, those two are really, really good. Anyway, we're also going to talk about WandaVision episode 6. We'll also discuss the latest news, and if there's a time, we'll answer some listener email. But I'm going to ask you, Jack, so what have you been up to? Anything interesting, non-interesting?
Between shoveling snow out of this snowstorm that's been hitting us back to back, I've been continuing to work on my Bandai X-Wing for Blue Leader. It is coming out very well. So I should have it done within the week, I think. And then I have my next project already lined up. So I'll be doing quite a bit model building since, let's face it, it's COVID time. Really can't go out or do much. So like I said, I'm getting to catch up on modeling.
Yeah. But I was going to say what I've been doing. I've been going through Disney Plus a lot, and I watched Incredibles and Incredibles 2, and those are really good movies. Well, I love the first one. I think the first one is fantastic. The second one, not so much. It's got good things in it, but it's more of a rehash of the first one, basically, except they're switching in Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl in for Mr. Incredible. And I thought that after, I don't know how many years, there was a difference in it. At least 10 years before they made their sequel. They could have came up with something better, I thought.
Well, it was flipping the gender roles, which is, classic sitcom trope, that, dads can't stay home and handle things. But, I enjoyed them both. I think, they are two of my favorite Pixar movies. So, of course, superheroes and everything. So, I like them both a lot. But you know what? I agree with you. I haven't watched them in a while.
You should. And they're out there on Disney Plus, so you might as well. Visually, I'd say Incredibles 2 looks really, really good. It's just that I wish that it was a better story. I wish it was a better villain. Like Syndrome was really good. And I think it's Screenslaver is the villain in this one. And it's like,
They should have had Becky, the babysitter, turn into the supervillain. She's traumatically scarred from babysitting.
No, I always said it should have been Frozone. I know Disney would never do that, but I started to think when I first saw it in the theaters, I was like, oh man, if Frozone is the bad guy, because like he meets the guy in the limousine first, and it just seemed to me like, maybe he's fed up of all of a sudden society looking at the superheroes as bad, like when all their life all they wanted to do is good for people. That would have been such a great movie, but Disney, I know, was never going to do that. Would have been awesome.
Frozone is a nice counterbalance to Mr. Incredible.
He is, but it just would have been something very unpredictable. And also the new superheroes that they brought in, what a crappy bunch of looking superheroes. Again, it's 10 plus years from the sequel, and that's the best that you have. That had that one guy, he was an old guy that was basically his superpower was vomiting on people, a reflux guy or whatever the hell his name is, and it just was.
Yeah. I don't know, it bothers you more than it bothers me.
It does. It would have been nice if they had some Marvel superheroes in there since they owned Marvel at the time. But oh well, what are you gonna do? I watched Coming to America because the sequel's coming out.
That was always a fun movie.
It was. I enjoyed it in the theaters, and I remember when I had seen it, I was in. Did you ever go to the Amboys? That movie theater. It was like a multiplex. It was like one of the first multiplexes.
Yes, during college with you.
Well, I didn't know you went to in Jersey and the Amboys. You went with me there
Oh,
too?
no. I'm thinking on the Highland, on Highland Boulevard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this was in New Jersey.
No,
And
Amboy, I think I've been there a couple of times. It's a big
yeah,
place.
it was a cool theater. But at the time, I went with one of my friends, and it was just me and him, and I think it was like an all black audience, and it was so awesome to see it that way. You know, you always like you can't when you experience something like that, they really do get into it. They all stand up and they start screaming at the screen, and everyone is just having a good time. Like there was a point where I missed a line, and I asked my friend, I says, what did they say? They were laughing so loud I didn't hear it. And this woman just that was sitting in front of me, turns around, grabs me by the knee, and she says, he said it was trash. He thought it was the collection box, and she was slapping me on the knee. And it was just so much fun. I wish I could see the second one like that. And again, it was a good movie.
Well, I mean, that's the one of the things I miss with the whole way of the world now. I mean, seeing Avengers Endgame in a packed theater was incredible. Just seeing it with a crowd and having all sorts of energy, that adds to the enjoyment of the movie anytime.
Yeah, could you imagine if Avengers Endgame came out the year after? That was COVID. That
would have been
yeah.
That would have been rough.
Yeah, especially
People
box office records.
Out.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna watch Coming to America too, but I don't know. It looks like it's another story where his children is brought into it, like they did that recently with Borat, and what was the other one that they did? Bill and Ted too, and stuff like that. It's like,
I didn't see either of those.
Yeah, you're not missing much. But hopefully this is good. I'm pretty sure all of the cast is back from the original. Anyway, so I'm looking forward.
There's not that much of a cast.
What do you mean there's not much of a
Eddie
cast?
Murphy and Arsenio Hall played 3/4 of the characters in that movie.
You had James Earl Jones. You had John Amos.
Yeah, but that's a low count compared to what those two are.
No, but I'm just saying.
Barbershop scene is still like incredible, considering it's how many years ago since the first one came out, that you would have no idea it was just those two guys in that barbershop.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, I was in New York at the time, so I guess it was like the mid '90s or something like that. I think.
Yes, but like even today, that holds up very well.
Well, it's all makeup too,
I know it's makeup, but like I said, the whole scene, multiple characters on the same screen at the same time. Usually sometimes there's like a slight color variation that kind of pulls you out of it. They did a good job on that whole scene.
Yeah, they did. And it's such a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, it's available on Amazon Prime. I would check it out before this one. Really, really cool.
I'm going to have to rewatch it because that was just such a good movie.
Yeah, you should watch it with Patrick. I'm sure he hasn't seen it.
I'm sure he hasn't.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the news. So I wanted to bring this up first because I forgot about this the last time that we had done news. Apparently, Sony approached Keanu Reeves about playing Kraven the Hunter in a standalone Kraven movie, but he turned it down, thankfully. So what are your thoughts on that?
No. Keanu Reeves, I've seen him in a number of things, but I never kind of pictured him as an action star until I happened to catch the John Wick movies.
Yeah.
And he does really well. I mean, I've always
I like him.
A very good actor.
Yeah.
I liked him. He's also known as a really nice guy.
Oh yeah.
In the city. And like he gives his seat up on the subway. He takes the subway. he's approachable to fans. I mean, he just seems like a really nice guy, and he's a good actor to watch. So I would have liked to see. I think he could have pulled Craven off. But
See, that's
whoever they get as Craven they have to have like someone tall. You know, Craven can't be a little guy, and Keanu Reeves has the height.
yeah.
So he works in it as well. You know, and I was thinking about this since he turned it down, that it's too bad Jason Momoa, Aquaman.
Yeah, he
Am I
might have
saying
been a
his
good
name wrong?
one.
I always get.
That's right. That's right.
He would have made a damn good Craven, but he's
Yeah,
over in
I
the
can see that.
MCU now. The
No,
DC,
DC.
whatever they call it, DCU.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it?
Well, I think they changed it, but yeah, we know what it is.
Okay, DCCU. You know, he's with the Warner Brothers group, but man, he would have made an awesome Craven.
Yeah, I think he would have too. But my point when I said I'm glad that Keanu Reeves turned it down, I love him in John Wick and The Matrix and all that stuff. And I recently watched the first two John Wick movies again. I'll probably watch the third one next week. But he's a great presence, you know, and he's better when he says very little and he just has his action basically speaking for him. You normally don't see him, you know, reciting long lines in movies. It's just like, hello, you know, and then that's all you have to do. And he gives them a look. That's not Craven. Craven is a talker. Craven is very confident. He's very robust. And I don't think Keanu Reeves is that actor to portray that. And
yeah, but then again, it always goes back to Heath Ledger is the Joker.
that's true.
You know, I honestly think Keanu Reeves could have pulled it off, because instead of being Craven, the boaster guy, the silent, brooding guy, I think Keanu Reeves, if they played him that way, like Craven was later in the series, like in the first time, he's like, oh, I'll capture Spider-Man. But in the later Spider-Man books, Craven was more of that, you know, sullen, serious guy. And I think Keanu Reeves could have pulled that off. But the reason I come back to Jason Momoa was because Mimosa. I keep swearing.
Well, yeah, Mimosa. Yeah, it's not Mimosa.
Because we've seen him as a brooding guy on Game of Thrones, and we've seen him as, you know, the loud, jocular guy on Justice League and in Aquaman. So I just look now and I'm like, he'd really captured a part, because when he does the crazy eyes, like, that's Craven right there. But once again, I think it's, you know, Keanu Reeves. I'd love to see him in something else.
What was it? I think the last thing that I read with Craven in it, again, was a long time ago, was Craven's Last Hunt. Was that what it was called? Was it called Last Hunt?
Yeah, yes. And he's been back since then, because, you know, hardly anybody stays dead in comics anymore. But, you know, Craven is back. For a while, they had his son stand in as the new Craven for a while. But then his daughter got involved, which we know he had a son and a daughter, but comic books. So they brought him back. So Craven is back in the comics. So,
well, I would love for them to do like a screen version of Craven's Last Hunt. My problem again with this movie is it's a standalone Craven movie, and I don't even know if Spider-Man's going to be in it. That's what Sony's doing with the success of Venom. They're like, well, we'll just focus on the villains, and also the success of Joker kind of gives them a little leverage that we can focus on the villains. We don't necessarily have to focus on Spider-Man. We'll kind of leave him in the MCU right now. We'll do the animated Miles Morales, but we have tons of villains that we can make movies out of. And for the life of me, I don't know why Venom was successful other than he's a popular character. But that was a one and done movie for me. I watched it once. I never wanted to watch it again.
Actually, I've caught it a couple of times because they've had it on TBS, TNT, FX, one of his cable stations has
Yeah.
had it on. And I catch it, I watch it. It's pretty good. I like the angle they used on Venom. But I didn't think a Venom movie could work without Spider-Man, but it's a pretty good origin story. But the whole aspect, I think Craven actually works if they did a solo movie, because Craven didn't become Craven to fight Spider-Man. Craven was out there doing all these different jungle things and acquiring his powers, out in the jungle, hunting, meeting tribesmen. So they could handle Craven like sort of one of the old Alan Quatermain books, like King Solomon's Mind. I can't speak today. King Solomon's Mind, which is an old pulpy adventure book. And Alan Quatermain was the sequel. But they could do that adventure where he's down in Africa, the Amazon, tracking down all these different things that will give him his jungle powers.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, he started out drinking serums and snorting dusts. And that might not be something Disney wants to show anymore, considering he's taking drug enhancing stuff.
Well, they'd probably do something similar to what they did with Black Panther in the movies.
Exactly. He's going out and he's finding things, he could be going to a temple to get the stone of whoever, or tracking the crazy giant gorilla for the teeth in his tooth necklace to give him gorilla strength. They could do all sorts of things like that with him, and they could build a movie out of that to where at the end he becomes Craven the Hunter, and then he's reading a newspaper at the end that says, this spider kid is swinging around New York, and he's like, that's my next challenge. Boom, right into the Spider-Man verse. So yeah, Craven might be able to work better than some other ones. Like Doc Ock, I can't see Doc Ock being a solo movie. Who else did Sony have in that little end scene? They had the vulture wings, Doc Ock's arms. We saw the rhino suit in action. But yeah, I mean, they would just need to get a good...
Well, they want to do everything.
I know they want to do everything, but not all characters could probably handle a solo movie because there's just not enough to them.
They're doing Mobius.
Right, Morbius at least, though, that you have that whole supernatural aspect that they can handle of him becoming the monster that he becomes. So you have that horror aspect to it. The same way you had Venom was kind of a mad scientist, alien sort of movie. They're using these characters outside of a superhero genre. You have Venom as your spooky sci-fi alien thing. You could have Craven as your pulpy jungle adventure. You could do Morbius as your horror movie. Like, even if they did something like The Man-Wolf, you're back again. You're making a werewolf movie. It's superhero character in a werewolf movie. So if they keep trying to do that, it may work. Sort of like how the MCU kind of gives different movies a different theme. Ant-Man is heist movies. Captain America has become spy espionage. So it could work if they do that angle.
Yeah.
But not every character can support a movie.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But I would like to see Keanu Reeves get something with the MCU.
Oh, I'd love to see him in there.
I mean, and there have been rumors for a while that he's being looked at for Star Wars, and I would love to see him like either as a Jedi or even like a Sith. I think he'd be really, really good.
No,
Or a pilot.
Maybe not a pilot, but maybe like one of those generals, like say he was like Holdo in The Last Jedi. He's got a role, he's a commander, he's a general, and he's kind of getting things moving. With Star Wars, I think they should kind of keep going forward, give us a little bit of a break from the Sith, Jedi, kind of just give us more of a movie like Rogue One or Solo.
Yeah. Well,
'cause,
they are doing Rogue Squadron, so
yeah. So
I think that's the next one.
Like, for example, that would be a great movie for him in there.
All right, moving on. So we talked about this last week. So some more news came out about Gina Carano, and apparently Disney or Lucasfilm never told her that she was fired. She found out on social media.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I don't think that's right at all.
No, I mean, I remember how it felt. I used to work when I was at Gannett Outdoor. We found out that our company's division was sold off in the newspaper that morning. No one told us. It's like we got a free USA Today. We open it up. Nice. We're reading Gannett sells off their outdoor division. We're like, what? And it was one of those, everybody in the conference room now, and we're all walking in there with our newspapers like, what the heck is this? But that's how we found out. So if that's how she found out, my condolences, because that's a terrible way to find out. I know from personal experience. Oh, but can I clarify a point from last week?
Sure.
Okay. We did get some viewer mail, and I was surprised that some people thought I was actually leaning towards the left. I'm actually the moderate guy. He's the rightist. Taylor's the leftist. I'm the guy in the middle. So when I said that freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Okay, the type of consequences that I was talking about is consequences as opposed to if you spoke out like people are currently in Russia, being, they're speaking out and they're being grabbed and thrown in jail. That's what I'm saying. That's what the Constitution kind of goes with the consequences. What I was saying is the consequences are you can say whatever you want. Okay. I have the right to disagree with you. That is the consequence of your speech. You can have your say, I can have my say. The consequence of your say may be I agree with you, maybe I disagree with you very much. The other consequence is if I say something, I have the freedom of speech to say it. If I say it to my boss and he doesn't like what I'm saying, we work in a hire at will society. My boss can say, Jack, you're ridiculous. I really take offense to that. You're out of here. I have the feeling that is exactly the case that will happen. That would be the consequence of my free speech. My employer couldn't throw me in jail for it, but he doesn't have to put up for it. And that's his freedom of speech, freedom of choice. So that's where I was coming from when I was saying freedom of consequences. The consequences are you can say whatever you like. The consequences are, yeah, you're likely to piss somebody off sometimes. So that's where I was going. The example I used of saying something bad and your boss taking offense to it and letting you go, that was what I meant in terms of Gina Carano. I happen to like her. I think what she did was just foolish on social media when they told her to stop. She should have, but she didn't. As a result, the consequences, her boss got mad at her and let her go. So that was my point of clarification. Gina, if you were listening, I am sorry you found out about this. If it's true that you found out about it in the papers or social media, because like I said, that's a terrible way to find out that you've lost a gig. So Joe, yeah. I totally side railed you.
No, you didn't. No, it's kind of like what we're talking about. And we got into it, pretty deep last time. I don't want to get into it too much, But my point has always been, I just don't like when celebrities go on Twitter and they start
Right.
saying something political or controversial. And I've always said that for tons of actors. So I'd be a hypocrite if I said that, well, she should be okay. It's when you are working for a company, and we have these rules too at WDWNT, you have to basically watch what you say, like on Twitter, and what you post, because you never know what's going to be looked at as offensive or could be construed as that way. My issue that I said last time, though, is I think that it might have been a little too harsh, that she was fired. She said a couple of things, but I don't think that they were really offensive. And I know a lot of other actors have said worse, and they've basically still been retained by Disney and other companies. And it does get political too. It's unfortunate. Being a conservative, it made me feel good to see that there was actually a conservative.
Ultra conservative.
I'm not an ultra conservative.
You're close.
No, I'm not. You don't know me then, because like I said,
30 plus years.
you definitely don't know me. I'm not going to go into my voting
I know.
record.
I'm only kidding. I'm only playing with you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I do not. I don't follow the pack. If I see something is wrong, it's wrong. No matter which side is doing it. I'm not going to stand by a particular side just because I normally agree with some of the things that they do. Like a current event that happened, like at the Capitol and stuff like that. I'm not in favor of what happened there. And I'm like that. I judge.
Before we get in trouble.
Yeah.
So Joe, what happened?
All right. Yeah. Before we get in trouble. So anyway, that was it. That's basically what happened. I kind of wish she would have thought like we did. I'm making probably a lot of money on this gig. I need to be careful about what I say. And
you don't think that way?
I don't think that way. Or
no, we don't make a lot of money doing this gig.
No, not us, but I'm just saying, like, I'm pretending to be her, basically. Okay. So she's got to look at that. I mean, I would be more concerned about that because, again, she could have her own series. They were willing to give her one. But who knows? Maybe this will lead to something else. I doubt it. I don't follow her. I don't follow anybody really. No,
I'm the same. I hear you.
Yeah, but when news comes out, I read about it, and I don't know. Kind of wish her luck, and kind of hope in a way too that she just curbs her enthusiasm.
And I mean, her action figures look. It's too bad they've cut production on them because.
Well, that was something.
Figures look really good.
See, now I didn't talk about that. Part of the reason was because Hasbro did come back and they kind of reiterated, what was being said on the internet. They didn't cancel her figure. They made the figures for season 1 and season 2. So she's not going to be in season 3.
Right.
So
well, that's what I mean. They're stopping future productions because the ones that they have out already are going for like a couple $100 on eBay already.
Oh, thank God I'm not into that collecting.
One thing you should take a look for on the web is Sideshow is doing a Cara Dune statue. It looks so good. The only thing is they kind of lightened her arms a bit. So her arms are a little. The rest of her is,
I'll check it out.
Their arms, they kind of slenderized, I thought, a little bit, but it looks good.
Yeah, she's got some big arms. She would kick my ass in an arm wrestling contest for sure.
Okay.
Anyway, all right,
If Joe sees her on the street, come on, I'll take you on.
So Tiona Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, had kind of alluded that we're going to see something pretty big in regards to the aerospace engineer's identity, which I kind of don't remember this too much because although I watch the show, I watch it and that's it. I do you know of an aerospace engineer that she was with? Probably was when the first episode that she had, was it episode 3?
Of an
Ish.
aerospace? Well, I mean, she was working at the place which turned into Sword.
Yeah, so
I
it had
thought
to be there.
that
It's a anyway. She
whatever
said,
aerospace stuff was going on that her mother was working with turned into Sword and kind of took off from there.
well, she said she goes, I can't wait to see what your all reaction is going to be when you learn who the aerospace engineer is. So, any thoughts?
Um,
I know there's people on the internet saying things.
no, I
So,
don't know who they could have as an aerospace.
well, the big thing is, which I'm surprised that you haven't said it since it's one of your favorite comic books.
Yeah, but Reed Richards is everything. He's just not aerospace.
Well, maybe in the MCU he is. Maybe that's how he gets his start.
Unless he's working on a project with Sword, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know, because he does Reed Richards in the comics he does everything. He's not just aerospace. But oh, wait a second. Left field, not Reed Richards, Ben Grimm. Because Ben Grimm, as they've noticed, like a lot of people think he's just the kind of a big, dumb, goofy guy, but they've mentioned it numerous times in the book that he has numerous advanced degrees in aerospace because he was an astronaut. He flew. He was a test pilot. He flew rockets all over the place. So maybe it's Ben Grimm that they kind of allude to the fact that a lot of times, you know how Reed Richards has to explain things, that Ben Grimm is kind of doing it just to annoy him, you know, just to kid him a bit. That Ben Grimm understands what they're working on, but he just, you know, what are we doing this for, Stretch Show? Why am I holding this machine up for you while you're tinkering? You know, and it also tells the reader what's going on as well. But maybe it's Ben Grimm.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be.
We'll see. Maybe we'll see tonight. It's Thursday night right now.
Yeah, I do like how they've already started laying the groundwork for her as
well,
Captain
let's
Marvel
hold on, pal. We'll get to that.
All right.
All right.
Next topic, WandaVision.
Next topic is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Did you watch the trailer?
I did.
So what'd you think?
Why don't you go first?
You know, there were some good things in the trailer that I liked. I especially liked the music. I really felt Danny Elfman's score for the original Justice League just didn't do anything for me. Even though he had his Batman theme from, you know, Tim Burton's Batman, and he had John Williams' Superman theme kind of in there, it did absolutely nothing for me. Like I'm a huge Hans Zimmer fan, like what he did with the Dark Knight movies.
Right. You like that hard thematic music.
Corals, give me corals, you know. So yeah, I was impressed with the music. So I'm a little looking forward to that. But as far as the rest, I think one of the biggest problems what people don't get with this whole Justice League movie and part of why it was a failure, I think part of it's the story. I know that this was originally a New 52 story, wasn't it? That's kind of like what brought everybody together. I'm pretty sure it was. because they also
But
it was an
like I said,
animated
I'm not the DC guy. I know
it was
that
an
they
animated movie too. Is Justice League War was based on that too,
it
on the
could
New
be
52.
closer to Justice League War.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it was to fight Apocalypse or one of his what like uh Apocalypse in Marvel X-Men has the Four Horsemen. What do you call Darkseid's group?
Oh, I don't
Like
know.
Granny Goodness and Orion and uh the little troll guy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know what they're called, or Steppenwolf that we know from the first one. Um, I think they were going against them. I don't think they went against Darkseid in the first story, but like I said, I'm not the DC guy.
Yeah, I basically just watched Justice League War. I mean, not recently, but that is more in my mind. I think I looked at a few issues of the New 52 and when that was going on, but my point is that was the whole thing. Is Darkseid was coming, the whole mother box things, which I never got. It's to me, it's even in the especially in the movie. It's like if you're a DC fan, maybe you'll appreciate seeing mother boxes. If you're a casual moviegoer, you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
And it's
I'm not sure because the mother boxes I didn't think were that rare. Like they made it seem in the first Justice
yeah.
League there were only three, and they were rare and they could cause the whole world to blow up and everything. I thought a mother box was basically like your portable computer / transporter kind of thing.
Well, I
Uh,
was getting them confused with boom tubes.
well, I think the mother boxes generate the boom tubes, if I'm right.
Yeah, but
Like I said, I'm not 100% up on it. I could be wrong very easily. It's happened a few times.
yeah, a few times. But the problem again with the original Justice League movie, I know they like to go after Joss Whedon, like and what he did with Zack Snyder's version. I don't think anyone really had chemistry together in that movie. The Justice League members, like when you compare, and I know he wasn't on screen that much. Superman and Batman, they don't have the chemistry that Captain America and Iron Man have in the movies. Nobody on the Justice League has chemistry. I mean, I wouldn't say that Cyborg and Flash have chemistry, even though they were digging Superman's grave and all that stuff.
No, I would say Batman and Wonder Woman did.
It was very minor.
Well,
You can't compare Batman and Wonder Woman versus Cap and Iron Man, or Cap and Black Widow, or Iron Man and Thor,
yeah,
or
no, I hear you. I hear you.
they just melded perfectly together. It's like you kind of believe them just in the first movie, the Avengers movie, that they just worked together well, that they were teammates. They didn't necessarily like each other, but they felt very natural together. These people did not feel natural together, and they felt kind of off, especially I would say Aquaman. I don't know what the hell he was doing there. I don't
Well,
think they,
I think it comes down to uh, there was a sports comparison that they used to say like the Avengers were like the Yankees. They were a team, they trained together, they're much more intimate relationship, where the Justice League was like an all-star team for an all-star game.
I could see that.
Just good players brought in and said, play the game. So I think that camaraderie takes longer to develop for the Justice League than the Avengers because of the nature of who the Avengers are, their environment, versus the Justice League, where each of these guys are much more godlike. So of course they're going to be a little bit more separate, more standalone than the members of the Avengers, who are only together to fight evil that is beyond any single hero to fight.
But I don't see that in the DC movies and in Justice League. Like Flash, I think is basically a kid who's confused. He's not the Wally West or Barry Allen. I'm sorry, Barry
Mm.
Allen. Aquaman is an outcast from, isn't he? Like from Atlantis. Like that, they're not really crazy about him, partly because he's,
Because he's half human.
he's half human. Wonder Woman, she's been around for a while, like in the United States, and I guess in this part of the world and all that. But she's not the god that I imagine that we saw in the comic books. Batman just works on his own,
Batman.
And Superman, Man of Steel, he was Superman, but he wasn't happy about being Superman. He
Right.
felt like he was an alien and that he was never going to be accepted and all that stuff. So that whole premise of them all being gods doesn't work for me because they're all flawed in their mentality, or what they think about themselves. And that was a mistake, I think, is starting, with whoever wrote the screenplays for all the movies.
Well, that also takes out a big element of fun. Like we talked about what they did with Shazam. How, yes, he was the hero, but you had the camaraderie of his new step family thrown in there to sort of ground him a little bit more. Like you can't even say like Alfred grounds Bruce Wayne / Batman, because they have Alfred is more like Lucius Fox.
Alfred in this one is basically his security guard.
Yeah, versus the butler /
no, they said that
stand-in parent he's always been in the comics.
Yeah, they said that he's really not, like, he was part of Bruce's security team, I guess, when his parents died or whatever. Yeah, nothing just seems to work. And I'm gonna say with the new trailer, like we saw glimpses of Darkseid, doesn't look very good, CGI wise. Just looks rushed, and I think he's going to be a problem unless, well, it's coming out. What is it? In
March
about a month,
16th.
I forget now. 18th.
18th.
Yeah, it's a month from now. He just, to me, looked very CGI. Didn't look very well designed. And again, you compare him to Thanos, and they should kind of look the same since Thanos is based on Darkseid. No, it's just something is off. And why Thanos was so successful in the MCU or the Avengers movies was partly because of Josh Brolin's performance, but they got his look so good, with the CGI that you actually thought he was a living, breathing character. Like you saw the hair on his fingers or on his ears and stuff like that. That's an amazing looking job what they did with Thanos. And what I saw, and he's probably not going to be too much in this Snyder cut, just doesn't look good,
No, I thought it looked like a mess. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, So I rewatched it and I'm like, no, this isn't getting any better. Nothing from that trailer made me want to slap down the money to get HBO Max. I know you guys don't agree that I should just take the hit, but that trailer isn't convincing me to do it. And it's not convincing me to spend 4 hours watching this movie.
Well, I watched the trailer a couple of times too, because, the first time I saw some good things in it, but nothing blew me away. It's not like I'm really dying to see this movie. I don't think it's going to add anything, and I don't think the story is going to change that much.
Right.
I think we're going to see more origin stories. Like we'll see Cyborg's origin, and we'll see maybe Flash's origin and stuff like that. But I don't know if I really want to see that, if that's going to make the movie any better. Like I know Taylor is always saying the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman is so much better because it explains what's going on. it just makes the story longer, because when you're watching a movie with Batman and Superman, you want to see Batman and Superman. You don't want to see Clark being an investigative reporter. You don't want to see Bruce as Bruce Wayne going to fight clubs or whatever the hell he was doing. It's just, and especially you don't want to see more Lois Lane if that Lois Lane sucks, which Amy Adams is horrible as Lois Lane.
Well, the only Batman versus Superman I saw was the extended cut, and it just
Yeah, I think it makes it worse.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't get Zack Snyder. Maybe that's it. I just don't get him.
I like 300, and I liked Watchmen. I thought that was really good. And I like a large portion of Man of Steel, and I like a pretty big chunk of Batman v Superman too. And there's some things in Justice League that are okay, but he's not the god that a lot of these fans are making him out to be, where it's like, release the Snyder cut. It's the superior Justice League movie that we never got. And
they'll see.
Yeah.
If maybe they'll appreciate it. Maybe they'll like it. Like I said, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't get Zack Snyder, because from what you said, I mean, I liked 300. 300 is a fun movie because it's so over the top, crazy. It's fun. Watchmen, not a fan of, because honestly, I didn't like the graphic novel. I didn't like the comic series. So the movie already had a couple of strikes against it in my book. So I can't judge that as Zack Snyder, because, like I said, I didn't like the original source material. Man of Steel had some good parts in it. Batman versus Superman, I guess, had some good parts too. I didn't get much of it. My favorite thing in the whole Batman versus Superman is Wonder Woman's theme.
Yeah.
I love that music.
Oh, and she was great in action too.
But yeah, like I said, maybe I just don't. And the Justice League movie, honestly, some movies when they're on TV, I'll leave it on in the background and half paying attention because I liked it, and I'll listen, half watch it. Justice League isn't even one of those movies for me. I won't even leave it on for noise.
It was funny because I realized that I have the UHD version of Justice League. So I'm like, all right, let me check it out. I'm just going to fast forward to the scenes that I think are really good. So I'm hitting the button, and I'm like going, and I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm like, I don't know where to stop. Like where I would say my favorite scene in the whole thing is when Superman's brought back from the dead and the Justice League have to fight him, But that's basically it. I think the battle that takes place in Sokovia, can we say, since Josh Whedon was doing it, just not very good. There's some good
the
stuff
only
in
parts
there.
I liked were the one you mentioned, when Superman comes back and fights the Justice League, and when he shows up to fight Steppenwolf.
That's the one thing that I liked about Justice League, was they finally got Superman right. He looked like he was having a good time, and that it wasn't a burden being Superman. He was enjoying being a Superman, and that he was there to help the people. Like when they're like, all right, come on, we have to defeat Steppenwolf. And he's like, wait a minute, people are in trouble. I'm like, that's my Superman that I've been missing, in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, so I was kind of glad to see that.
Right. And I mean, like, out of Justice League, but that's what? 15 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie?
It's not very long. Yeah, no, you're right.
I mean,
and they're going to add 2 more hours to it.
They're going to add 2 more hours to it. Exactly. So, like I said, maybe it's just me. If people enjoy the Justice League movie, that's great. Enjoy the heck out of it, but it's just not for me.
But I wanted to point out, and I pointed out to you guys, like when I first saw the trailer, the second time I watched it, I noticed they were replaying the scene where Superman dies at the hands of Doomsday, and he's screaming, and you can visually see his scream come out in some sort of fog form that just travels the universe. and makes its way to dark side or apocalypse. And when I saw that, I was like, you got to be kidding me. They actually gave this guy a second chance, and this is what he comes up with. That is the dumbest thing I have seen him do so far. You know, that he would actually physically represent Superman's scream reaching apocalypse. It's like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's like, get rid of this guy. He's done. And again, that bothers me that he's getting a second chance. It's like, you take
But
a
was
test.
that part of was that part of his first chance? Because remember, he's still reusing some stuff. That might have
But he's
been in
adding a
his
lot of
initial
stuff.
version.
But so what? It still sucks. You know, I mean, it wasn't in this movie, in the one that we saw in the theaters, but that idea still sucks. I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah, it does. I'll go with you on that. But this might not be part of his second chance. This might have been part of his first chance.
Oh, yeah, we don't know. But I was trying to say, though, what I don't like about this whole Zack Snyder getting this whole thing is that it's kind of like if you're in school and you take a test and you fail, and then you go up to the teacher and say, all right, I failed. I want to take it again tomorrow. But you know which questions you got wrong, you know? And that's kind of like what I feel like they're doing for him, that he's taking what people didn't like and he's making it better. This isn't the Justice League that he was going to release. And again, I just feel like, why him of all people? Why would you give him a second chance?
I don't know.
And to add to his stupidity, I found out that this movie is not going to be in widescreen. It's going to be not 4:3, but we're going to have black bars on the sides, not the top. The trailer, when you saw the trailer,
Is that to shoot some of the stuff being shot on video?
No, he wanted the movie to be that way. He wanted to be like in an IMAX format, and like an IMAX screen is more square than rectangular.
Okay.
So you get more on the top and
Or
the bottom.
yeah, more height.
Yeah. But he's cutting off the sides, you know, so we're going to have black bars on the sides. And I'm like, well, why don't you just fill out the whole screen? You know, I love when something is 16:9, like on a widescreen TV. I don't want to see black bars on the sides. It's just going to distract me.
No.
I'm done with this guy.
Maybe he thinks people still have old TVs they're streaming HBO on.
It would look pretty good on a tube TV, actually, you know, but I doubt it. So anyway, I asked you to watch this. Did you watch the Cruella trailer?
The Justice League, yeah, I've watched it.
No, I asked you to watch the Cruella DeVille trailer. Did you watch
the Cruella DeVille. Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
This is a Joker movie I want to see.
I mean, are you serious? Did you like the way it looked at? I mean, I agree. It does look like the Joker.
It looks like Cruella DeVille it's like Bonnie and Clyde without Clyde. She's just like this crazy criminal chick going out, trashing the town and going crazy. It actually, this to me looks more fun than everything I had seen in regards to the Joker, because you know I still haven't watched that movie, but fun. So I'll stream Cruella DeVille on Disney Plus and I'll watch it, and yeah.
I'll watch it, but to me, this proves they have no originality. They're basically ripping off Joker. It's almost like,
but you see, it's new to me.
Yeah, it's new to you.
Because I refuse to watch Joker.
You. No, but they're trying to blame society on why Cruella is evil. And that
I didn't get that. I just thought she was broken all her life. She was a broken kid, and grew up broken, and
well, that's kind of like with the Joker. I mean, when you watch, if you watch the movie with Joaquin Phoenix,
I'm not watching the movie. That movie.
I say
it doesn't seem fun to me at all.
My point was, if you watched ED, that movie, you would see a lot of similarities in the trailer. You know, again, you were very sympathetic towards the Joker, in this for the majority of the movie, because you felt that he was beaten and trodden on by society. And that's what I got with this. Like in the beginning, it seems like, I don't know, she's like a handmaiden or something like that, or
Now you see, I didn't get that at all. I got from that trailer that she's, like I said, a broken person who just goes off the rail. And not that I'm going to feel sympathy for her, but I want to see what she does next. I want to see what crazy stunt she tries to pull off. And I don't get the whole fixation on Dalmatian things, but I guess they'll bring it in somewhere. But that's what I got from it. I didn't get that we're supposed to feel sympathetic for her in the least bit.
well, it looked like that the crowds or the crowds of people looked at her as an icon once she became Cruella, like where she changed the color of her hair, to have like a black and white stripe, whatever. And she created that character that was like spray paint, with the name Cruella on there. And I'm like, that's exactly like the Joker movie, I mean, I'll watch it for sure, but I don't know if it was really necessary. I mean, I will say it looks better than a lot of the other trailers that we've seen for movies, that live action versions of what Disney has done. Like Aladdin, although I kind of liked Aladdin. I thought that was better
Aladdin
than...
wasn't too bad. I was kind of disappointed with the genie storyline. I thought the genie should have been free, but still been like the genie, like he was in the animated. For him to become human, I like I said, I was like, all right, and
he was kind of
family
subdued in this one, I think, because he didn't want to be compared to Robin Williams. And I actually think Will Smith did a good job for, having to fill such big shoes.
Oh yeah, no, I thought he did good. It's just I didn't like the way they wrapped up the genie storyline.
Yeah,
that's just me though.
Anyway, yeah, Jack and I will both watch Cruella. I don't know. Jack's optimistic. I'm pessimistic. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's get into WandaVision. So we're up to episode 6 now. Hopefully you remember it more than I did, because I don't remember too much other than the fact they went trick-or-treating.
Well, they went trick-or-treating, and while they're off trick-or-treating with Uncle Pietro, Vision kind of takes off on his own. He tells her he's going to work, but he starts to explore as the Vision versus in his human disguise. And he works his way to the border of Wanda's influence. And he starts trying to pierce the barrier. So he's making it through the barrier, but he can't really disconnect from it because he is made of this energy that the barrier is created from. So as he's trying to fight his way out of it, pieces of him are being pulled back. And then, of course, at that point, Wanda becomes aware of it, and she goes and she just expands the range of her influence. So as that bubble is expanding, everybody's freaking out, running for their lives, or they're going to be sucked into Wanda's sandbox, let's say. So I thought it was a good episode. It had a lot of interesting things leading the story. It also reveals that Pietro knows what is happening, that this is all fantasy created by Wanda. So I'm starting to go into that camp that possibly Pietro is the villain in disguise.
Really?
And only because he's in there and aware of what's happening, that maybe somehow he manipulates. So I'm almost thinking he might be Nightmare.
Oh, wow.
That he started influencing Wanda through her dreams to create this. And now that she's created it, now he's going in to basically mess with her some more, because he's kind of got that foothold when he is. Because Nightmare did like something similar with the Hulk. I don't know if you remember. In one of his storylines, Bruce Banner had the Hulk had Bruce Banner's mind. And Nightmare started going in and affecting Bruce Banner's dreams until he basically tortured Bruce Banner into shutting down, which left the Hulk just an uncontrollable monster. I'm wondering if it's Nightmare doing something similar, like he kind of worked on Wanda in her grief to make this thing, and now he's showing up inside it just to mess with her. So, but I don't remember if Nightmare can manifest in the physical plane. If he's one of those like subconscious astral beings, I don't know if he could have a physical presence in the sandbox like Pietro is, because Pietro is able to interact. He's not like, you know, if somebody touched him, he'll go through. He's able to touch the kids and take them trick-or-treating and grab things and move things. So, like I said, I don't know if Nightmare can do that. But
It's funny because
sorry.
my nephew Frankie, he messaged me the other day, and he said I'm starting to think that Nightmare is behind everything, and that Doctor Strange is going to show up at the end to help out. And
Maybe.
both Nightmare and Wanda are going to be in Doctor Strange too.
Right. Well, that would be. I mean, there's some people out there thinking it's Mephisto. Is the main villain behind this, but I don't know if they're going that route or not.
He's Spider-Man villain, right?
Well, Mephisto, I mean, he's basically the devil. He was introduced because he wanted to capture the Silver Surfer, because the Silver Surfer is the noblest, purest soul as you can get. And of course, that makes him more valuable to Mephisto to have him captured in hell or wherever. But like I said, the fact, I don't know. But I'm after last week's episode, I'm in the camp that this isn't completely Wanda's breakdown. I think she's been manipulated into the breakdown, and maybe she's going to start being steered in different directions. So that's my guess, but it's still a solid 8 now in my book as a whole.
Yeah, and I had told you before, I think I said last time, that I don't think Wanda's going to be the villain, just due to the fact that Monica and Wu and Darcy don't think she's the villain. And that white guy that's the leader of Sword, he does. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to go more with the group. She's not a villain. And
yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking now. After the last episode, I see your point, and I agree.
Like, she didn't kill that guy. She could have easily killed him, and she still didn't kill him. I think if she would have killed him, it might have made it look more like she was a villain, or that she was in control. I guess someone could have been controlling her, but still, that she didn't kill him was a red flag to me too. That it's not Wanda, it's Disney saying, well, we can't have her be a bad person. We can't have her kill this person, even if she's being controlled by somebody, you know?
Well, I think that's, they don't want to have her cross that line.
Yeah.
You know, that if she kills somebody, all right, she's a murderer, you know. It's very hard to redeem coming back from that. But yeah, at first I really thought it was just her breakdown, but I still think she has the breakdown, but I think that breakdown is now being manipulated by someone else.
Yeah,
We'll have to see. We have how many weeks left?
I don't know. I don't care. But they're all an hour episode apparently coming up, which I wasn't too thrilled to hear. Again, I'm starting to enjoy it a little more, but it's not something that I'd like to watch. Like if I was a critic and I had spoken, and somebody came up to me that's unfamiliar with Wanda and Vision, and they would say, describe this in one word, I would tell them weird. You know,
It
I
is
don't
weird.
I don't think they would get it. Like if you're not fans of Wanda and Vision in the MCU, you're not going to enjoy it. And I think that that's part of the problem I have with this, where Disney does such a good
Yeah.
job, like what they did with Endgame. I mean, Infinity War. When you think about, they both made a ton of money, and I think Endgame made close to $3 billion. It wasn't all Marvel fans and superhero fans that went to see that movie. It was casual moviegoers that saw it. And not only did they see it once, they saw it a couple of times, and they're like, hey, that's a fun movie. You know, I might not
Hmm.
know who all the characters are, but I'm enjoying it. With this, I think it's like they might be going down a dangerous step, like where they're like, this is only for Marvel fans only, you know? And I think that they need to be more open towards entertaining anybody that turns on the channel. But maybe it's something minor. I just hope that they're not going down that path, and we're going to see that in the movies too.
Well, I think you're right. This is definitely one of those series. Unless you're up on the MCU, I don't think you're going to get a lot out of this because you're not getting. It's also part of fun of, oh yeah, that's Monica Rambeau. That's the daughter that we saw in Captain Marvel, or that there's Agent Wu from Ant-Man. Oh, there's Darcy from Thor. So there's a lot of pieces that are being brought in that if you haven't really been up on the MCU, you're just not going to
yeah,
get.
yeah, and I was like that with Agents of Shield. Like I didn't really watch Agents of Shield, but I know some minor things happened in the MCU that were part of Agents of Shield, and it's almost like, well, if you would have watched Agents of Shield, you would have known who that person was, and that this event happened during Agents of Shield, and for me, it's like TV and movies need to be separate. I don't like that they're too linked, because that's like just way too much watching time. Like I can
I
sit and watch a 2-hour movie. You're going to say, oh, what? I don't know what you're talking about, with Agents of Shield.
Well, I
Uh,
didn't think Agents of Shield was that linked to the movies. I mean, there were certain things like uh, the first season of Agent Shield was hampered because of the reveal from Captain America: Civil War. They couldn't. No, I'm sorry, Captain America: Winter Soldier. They were hampered because they couldn't do that reveal.
yeah.
Um, but Agents of Shield was pretty good. I mean, they went much deeper into Hydra than after the Winter Soldier ended. That was kind of all wrapped up, but the consequences of that movie affected Shield for some time. So they went much deeper into Shield. I'm sorry, much deeper into Hydra than they did. They went much deeper into the Kree than we saw in Captain Marvel, which the lesson learned is the Kree are just jerks, the galactic jerks of the galaxy. But we did get to learn a lot more about the Kree. We got to find out about Shield itself with the life model decoys.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of good stuff in Shield, but it was a series. You have to watch the series. They also did their own bit on the Inhumans. So there were different elements of Marvel that Shield handled that were separate from the movies. Now, I don't know how that short-lived Inhuman series would have tied in with Shield. But there was a lot of good stuff in Shield. I liked Agents of Shield.
Yeah. I was going to mention, I didn't like the way Quicksilver looked in his costume. I mean, Wanda looked pretty good. It was kind of like what you imagine what she would look like in the comics, but I think that they were like joking about that
Well, they
look.
were cheesy Halloween costumes. They
Yeah, well,
weren't the
like you remember,
superhero costumes. They were the goofy, what you would buy at Party City.
yeah, but like you remember like what they did in Captain America: The First Avenger, and they gave him his first like USO Captain America suit.
Right.
Kind of like, well, this is what you want, something like this from the comics. That's what it'll look like. But I
Mm,
do think that they
well, they
can
could
give,
make it cooler looking, but I think they
yeah.
went for the same thing. Here's a stage costume, not what we're going to see when he's in action.
Well, again, I would love to see Wanda get a real costume, because she kind of reminds me of a casual X-Men, like she wears like a leather jacket or whatever, like in the movies, not in this. And it's
I do
red.
like her headdress, though.
You mean like that was in this episode?
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I
that,
do like the little red head.
yeah, that's important.
I
It
don't know what you would call a hairband, headdress. I don't know. But I thought that looked good. That's a nice touch. I hope they keep that somehow.
Well, to me, when I was reading the comics, that's how I knew it was Scarlet Witch, from that whole headpiece that she had on. And that's why I was disappointed in the movies that it just looked like she came out of Banana Republic or something like that, Um, she needs a costume. I mean, hopefully. And Vision, I thought he looked good in the movies, and he looks good now. That costume though looked ridiculous. Like,
But that's the same thing. It's a
yeah.
Halloween costume. My only thing with the Vision is I wish they had brightened his colors a bit. He looks so,
It's a little muted.
yes, very muted. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more stand out in the red, just visually, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Brighten him up a bit.
So both Frankie and Dan's friend had brought this up about what's going on in WandaVision, that they both think that it's potentially everyone that's in Westview will become mutants after this.
I don't know. I still don't know how they're going to handle the mutant issue. The only thing I could think of is they're going to, in the, what is it, Madness of the Multiverse, the mutants are going to come from the 20th Century Fox universe over into the MCU. That would probably be the cleanest way to do it, because let's face it, if mutants just start, is Logan hanging around Westfield, New Jersey?
Well, that was my problem too.
You have characters from the X-Men who are from all over the world. Kurt Wagner, instead of being in Germany, he's in Westfield.
Well, that's what I think I was telling Frankie that
or
it's like
they have to wait until the people in Westfield have kids that grow up to be the X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying by them all being in Westview or whatever it's called, it'd make Professor X's job a lot easier for him to locate all the X-Men.
Yes, exactly.
Or mutants. So yeah, it's a good theory, but I hope they don't go that way.
I think the cleanest way is just here's a crossover from this universe, this multiverse universe into 616.
And I don't like the idea.
The Marvel comic universes that, they're coming over, and then the mutants come over, they meet humans, and then they just create more mutants throughout history. But I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah, like for me, like again, like Logan has got to be.
If I was working at Disney.
Oh, I wish I was working at Disney. Just give me a year to work and come up with like crap stuff that they do constantly and still get paid. Yeah, I'd be a very happy person. All right, let's get into the main topic now. So this is
Battle of the sequels.
So this is called Head to Head, and it is what Jack just said. It's the battle of the sequels, where we're having Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back go up against Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Just wanted to give like a couple of quick notes about this. So, what is it? Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. That was directed by Irving Kershner, and it came out in 1980. And I looked into this, and I wanted to see like what the directors did previously. He didn't do that much. You know, he did a lot of TV. He's mostly, other than The Empire Strikes Back, he's done Never Say Never Again, that James Bond movie that really isn't canon to the rest of the James Bond movies. And he did RoboCop 2.
Right.
So that's weird because this Empire Strikes Back is such a classic movie. You would have thought that previously he did something great, or after he would do something great.
I thought he did a lot of smaller films.
No, he really
No?
hasn't done much, you know. So bringing up Wrath of Khan. So it was Nicholas Meyer that had done the Wrath of Khan,
Mm-hmm.
and he had previously done Time After Time. Did you ever see that one?
Yes.
H.G. Wells
versus Jack the Ripper. That was good. I read the book before I saw the movie.
Oh, I love that movie. That's such a great movie. That was in the 80s, I think, or late 70s, maybe. He also did The Day After. Do you remember that?
That was the anti-nuclear war movie, right?
Yeah, that was on like ABC. It
Yeah.
was like a TV movie about nuclear war.
Well, that was really early because I remember we had to watch that. We were all supposed to watch it in grammar school.
It had to be in the 80s because it was like during the Reagan era, you know, with
No, late 70s.
I don't know.
I was, like I said, I was still in grammar school when that was on.
Maybe you're right, because Carter had some nuclear issues too. Well, he was against it, but Undiscovered Country, which was Star Trek 6, you know, he did that one. And this came out in 1982, so it came out 2 years after The Empire Strikes Back. So let's get into it. So let me ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
So which movie do you like better?
Which movie do I like better? I love both of them, but I gotta go with Empire Strikes Back. There's a lot of good in the Wrath of Khan. It's the best of the Star Trek movies, you know, but Star Wars is just my favorite over the two. If I had to pick a universe to live in, take me to Star Trek right away.
We're getting there.
Huh?
We're getting there. I'm getting to that question.
Okay. But The Empire Strikes Back is just the world building that was done. We saw Star Wars, a much more tighter, self-contained sort of environment for it. And then they took it to The Empire Strikes Back, and that world just built up. And it was good. You know, a lot of times sequels are like, let's just throw more crap at the screen and let's it stick. People are just going to eat it up anyway. But no, The Empire Strikes Back really worked on its world building and did a great job. The Wrath of Khan is a true sequel. Let's face it, Star Trek had already done its world building, and we knew what was happening in the Star Trek universe. But here's another story, a great story in the Star Trek universe, but it didn't accomplish as much as The Empire Strikes Back in terms of building upon something else. The first movie. So, and let's just face it, it's Star Wars. Spaceships around, things blowing up. snarky characters, crazy aliens. It's just Star Wars. What can I say?
Yeah, I had recently watched both of these movies. I think I watched Empire last week, and I watched The Wrath of Khan last night. And they're both really good movies, but I'm going to go with Jack on this one. I got to give it to Empire. Um, it's just like what Jack said. This was a true sequel. And what was great about it is for a Star Wars sequel, and because when back in the day when these movies or the idea of sequels were coming out, I don't think there were too many sequels. Well, we were too young for The Godfather and all that stuff, but we had seen Rocky, and Rocky 2 was a little bit more of the same. These had the Pink Panther movies. They were a little bit more of the same. This was not more of the same. I expected Return of the Jedi to be the sequel to Star Wars. Another Death Star, another battle. But this one, it started off on a snow planet, and that just blew me away because I just didn't see that coming. There were so many things in this movie I didn't see coming.
Right.
And that's what makes it such a great sequel, is that it's not a complete ripoff of the first one. It's just expanding the story. And yeah, I loved it. I still think it's such a great movie. It's my favorite Star Wars movie. And yeah,
But there are some things Wrath of Khan has an edge on. The
we'll
Empire
get there.
Strikes Back. So we'll get there.
So yeah, my next question is actually, when you'd mentioned universe, which universe is better, or which one would you rather live in?
Well, I would prefer absolutely to live in the Star Trek universe, where all the crazy stuff that we see in the news and a lot of tragic, horrible stuff that's happening on the planet, those have all been worked through and worked out. And mankind has taken a step forward, and we've all become a nicer, more civilized society. And now we're going out exploring. We're not going out conquering. We're going out exploring, meeting different races. Sometimes it works out where we have great relations. Sometimes you run into a Klingon and start butting heads. But in Star Wars, you are in a universe that is in a constant state of chaos due to war. And while it's very exciting to watch the movies, for your average everyday guy, it probably sucks. Like we've seen in The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian lands on a planet. Here are these people scraping by everything on a dust bowl of a planet, and they're just trying to eke out a survival. You don't see that as much in Star Trek. If people go to a planet, they actually bring stuff to take care of them. And if they need help, they can call for help and somebody will come and help them. Why? Only because they need help. Not looking for anything, not looking to shake them down to steal their, or I forget what they were going after on The Mandalorian with the little mining colony.
Yeah.
But here they are. You've got this force, Starfleet, that's going out exploring. If you need help, give a call. They'll come and just help you because you need help. I think that's a much nicer place to live than any place we've seen in Star Wars.
Well, I wasn't thinking of it that way, like how it would be to actually live, like in a society where everybody got along. We didn't have to worry about hunger or disease or anything like that. Like that we had become so advanced that it just seemed like,
well, not everybody gets along, but a lot of these tragic
well, I'm just saying
situations,
in Earth,
yeah,
they seem to get along.
Not really. They're still arguing and fighting and stuff, but they're not having wars.
Yeah.
You're having disagreements with people. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But what I liked about it, and I think what Jack is trying to say too, is that this is our future. What is it, 23rd century?
23rd.
Yeah. So I can understand like how we progressed, you know, especially through technology. And it's kind of exciting to imagine a world where we would live in something like that. Star Wars, I've always had a bit of a problem. And one of the biggest problems, and I know you're going to say it's dumb and stupid, is that they all speak English and that they're a little too much like us. I know it's like the dumbest thing to think of, but if this is a long time ago and it's a galaxy far, far away, they're too similar to us, I guess is what I'm saying. Especially when I watched the prequels, when they were in that bar and they were watching robots play football, and it was football, and it's like, why are they playing football? You know, anytime Star Wars gets a little too much like the Earth that we know, I just, it bothers me for some reason. It's
Well,
a dumb little quirk.
They're not speaking English, but they have Galactic Basic, which is it's a common language that most species can speak or understand. The closest thing, like you said, English, like in America, we're very different. But if you go to Europe, all over Europe, somebody speaks English somewhere. Same thing with Japan. Other countries learn multiple languages so they communicate, especially in business. And that's how I see it. I don't think of, it too much. Now, I like the fact that like Greedo speaks one language and we need little subtitles, or Jabba speaks something else, but he does understand basic because he's an alien. He may not be able to pronounce Galactic Basic, but he can understand it. Same way with Chewbacca. One thing I'm glad is they never gave Chewbacca subtitles.
Oh yeah, no, I am too.
They always had,
They always have Han there to translate.
Yeah, or you kind of just got what he was saying because of the motions that he used when he was talking. Like he's mad, he's, you get it. He doesn't need subtitles, but if Greedo did not have, yo, Hen, how you doing? If Greedo didn't have subtitles, we would not have gotten any of what was going on there, aside from this guy shows up, pulls a gun, tries to shoot Han Solo, and Han Solo shoots him first. I get what you're saying. What I think is kind of funny is that in the special editions, like when it originally came out, all the writing and everything was in English.
Yeah.
But then in the special editions, George Lucas changed it to like all these different symbols.
Yeah, no, I like that.
I don't remember what the alphabet is. And that's okay, but Star Wars wouldn't be as much fun if we had to read the entire movie.
Well, I want to make a point too. I don't want to seem like I'm insane. It's not like I want to see a movie where they're speaking an entirely different language in all these Star Wars movies and no subtitles, like the Star Wars Holiday Special, when the Wookiees were talking and there were no subtitles for 20 minutes, But I guess my point is more is like when Han, he'll call Luke kid. Hey, look, kid, like it's almost like, well, he could have been from Brooklyn, or something like that. It's a stupid little thing that I have a problem with.
Yo, she'll make 0.5 past light speed.
Yeah. And it is really stupid. But I think if there was an infinite amount of worlds and an infinite amount of universes, there could be a planet that existed a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away that was very similar to ours, that spoke English and other languages, and also, it would have been fine. So I'm making way too much of a big deal over it.
Well, there could have been. It's just then this big triangular ship showed up in the sky and blew up all their cities, and these guys in white came down and enslaved them and said, "We're your boss now." And
But I will agree with Jack. I would have to give it to Star Trek because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't last very long in the Star Wars universe unless I was a Jedi or very powerful. I don't think, you know,
Talk about the top 1%. That must be like the top 0.1, 0.0001%
yeah.
or something.
So who's your favorite actor
Uh,
in both movies?
in both movies. Okay, well, I gotta say Harrison Ford,
I agree
terrific
with you there.
in Empire Strikes Back,
Yeah.
in all the Star Wars movies. Um, on the other side, William Shatner, you gotta love William Shatner. We'll go that way. Darth Vader is terrific in Empire Strikes Back, where it's like, everybody who disappoints him gets a force choke or something happens to them. However, Ricardo Montalban is one of my favorite villains. He is so over the top as Khan, and every line of dialogue, he's put every bit of effort in. The expression chewing the scenery, when he's talking, he's grabbing a railing, or he's gesturing at something, or he's pointing at the screen like, I spit at you, Every ounce of emotion he can get out of every line, he carries through. He is just such a great character to watch on screen. So his performance in Wrath of Khan just makes him one of my favorite actors, and it's too bad he's still not around.
Yeah, I agree with you on all points. Again, when watching Empire, there's Irving Kershner gets the best out of his actors, I would say, in this movie than any other Star Wars movie. I think that the best performances by actors you'll find in Empire Strikes Back if you look at all the Star Wars movies. But I would say out of all of them, I would go with Harrison Ford too. I don't think he's that good in Return of the Jedi because he really didn't want to be there. And he's
Right.
average in A New Hope and all that.
But actually, if you look at Return of the Jedi, he's the one guy, he didn't want to be there, but he's the one guy that seems to be enjoying himself more.
I don't know about that.
No, I don't know. Like Carrie Fisher was, very straightforward, stoic, almost. Luke Skywalker, they toned him down to be, the unemotional Jedi, always in control, self-control. But Han Solo is still walking around like, hey, it's me. Or like, you're going to die here too. Real convenient. He's
a decent actor, but he just, his heart wasn't in it. I think, again, even like when I was watching it, back in the day, I didn't know that he wanted out of Star Wars and he wanted to be killed off and that they just brought him back with money. But when I would watch it, he had done Raiders before Jedi, right? I think he realized
was it before Jedi? Maybe, I don't remember.
Oh,
they were
yeah,
very
Raiders
close,
was
I
before.
think.
Raiders was before
in release,
Jedi.
weren't they?
Well, no, it definitely was before. And I think that he did so good in that and he loved that character. I think he saw that his career was about to take off, that he had two major franchises that he was in, and more people wanted him to be in movies, that it was almost like, well, I kind of owe George for giving me this start, but I hate this character, of Han Solo. But I always thought whenever I watched Jedi, I'm like, he just finished Indiana Jones and, he's probably thinking, it's like, what am I doing here? That's how I always feel about it. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I think Harrison Ford is probably the best actor in Empire Strikes Back. I like Leonard Nimoy. He's consistent, like I would say throughout the series, the TV series, he was always very good. He played Spock perfectly, where he became that character, and he was very good in The Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's also we talked about this prior when we were picking the movies, about the actors themselves, because initially we talked about doing A New Hope versus Wrath of Khan. But New Hope, we wanted to compare the actors a little bit more, because to compare them against the Star Trek crew who had played these characters for, at that point, was it like what, 20 years? You know, like Leonard Nimoy, he knows Spock. Shatner knows Kirk. DeForest Kelley knows McCoy. Like, these people knew these characters inside and out, and they had that bit down, which I would imagine would make them very easy to direct.
Yeah.
You know, the Star Wars crew took a little time. The second movie, I think, is when they really started to gel. And I think you're right that that's from the director as well. The way he worked with them and got them to kind of come together as a cast after the first movie. So a lot of the credit goes into that.
Yeah, Kirshner, he was more concerned with the story and the acting. He didn't give a damn about the special effects. So he kind of left all that up to George. And I think that that's why it's a superior movie. Is, in a way, you almost had two directors, because George did kind of work, or his Industrial Lights and Magic had worked on the special effects and all that stuff. And
well, they worked on Star Trek too. They were kind of the only game in town.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I actually have trivia, and I'm going to give a shout out to Charlie Hunter from Rusted Junk that I'm going to go on, once we're done with this. So, I'll kind of get into some trivia. But
okay.
Anyway, so I'm going to
go. This isn't how many buttons were on the panel.
No, I'm not giving you a quiz.
Like your last start.
I'm not asking you questions. I'm relating trivia to everybody.
Okay.
Which I thought was very fascinating. Anyway, so I'm going to go with Jack, Ricardo Montalban. Yeah, he was great as Khan, and he did eat up the scenery, and he is a fantastic villain, probably the best villain in the Star Trek universe. Like, Space Seed I had seen, which was the TV show that this was basically the sequel to, and it was okay, it was fine, but he was at another level when he was Khan. And I think part of it was Nicholas Meyer too. I think he got a lot out of him. But what was funny, I'm going to give you some trivia now, that a couple of things of trivia on Ricardo Montalban. At that time, he was filming Fantasy Island. He was Mr. Rourke on Fantasy Island, and he had done it for like 7 years or something like that. So he was so used to that character, he became that character. So he had a hard time playing Khan because it sounded like Mr. Rourke. So he had to request a special copy of Space Seed because it wasn't readily available. Back then we didn't have like digital and all that stuff. So he kept watching Space Seed over and over and over again until he was able to get back into Khan. And I thought that was funny that by him playing Mr. Rourke for so long that he was stuck in the mannerisms that he had. And
the voice too. I mean,
yeah,
Mr. Rourke was always so controlled, as opposed to I hate him.
Yeah. And you know what else I found interesting too was that I always heard that wasn't his real chest in Wrath of Khan, because he
really, I thought he was just cut. Like he was like, Mr. Rourke, he always had the white tuxedo on.
He was in the 60s. Ricardo Montalban, I think, when they filmed Wrath of Khan, and you're like, no way is a guy gonna have a chest like that. And that was the general theory, is that this was just a chest plate, done by the special effects production team.
I thought he was just in great shape.
And you're right, he was in great shape. He loved to work out. He lifted weights, and he did a ton of push-ups to get his chest looking as good as it was. But that was an ongoing myth, like for years, that that his chest wasn't real. So I thought that was interesting. I
Oh,
never
so
knew
you're
that.
saying it was.
It was real.
That was him. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to go with Jack and say Khan. So we're even right now. Well, actually, no, we're both agreeing with everything, but right now, Star Trek is is in the lead, which is a bit surprising, but I think things might change. All right. So who was the worst actor? So this, like, if you say who the worst actor is, this is going to be a negative for whichever side it is.
Um,
All right, that's too long of a
the
pause.
worst actor in Wrath of Khan had to be the guy who was Khan's second in command.
No, he wasn't that bad.
Oh,
No.
come on. It's like Khan would be like,
But he was very minor.
the torpedoes. And he'd be like, no, we can't. We're in a nebula. And
Oh, he wasn't like that.
you know, like he was just so like, the shield's still not working. We can't raise them. Like, I don't know. That guy.
He was C-3PO.
Yes, he was the C-3PO of Wrath of Khan. In Star Wars, let's see. I can't. Who was the? There's no one that stands out bad to me in The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, no one comes to mind.
So you're
I
gonna say
mean,
nobody?
the only thing is, Princess Leia is kind of a B. I don't understand why everybody's chasing after her. Huh?
I disagree with you with that.
No,
surprisingly.
I just think she's
got a lot in her mind.
She's tough. In her mind. She's tough. Her
home planet just blew up.
Her home planet, but
got to take charge of everything.
Yeah, I don't know. She just comes off a little bit like, I'm like, why are these guys chasing after this girl sometimes? But
it's cute.
If anything, that would be it. But I mean, honestly, if they had her play the role a bit softer, she wouldn't be Princess Leia. So no, I can't even put that as a strike against her.
Well, I'm going to say Mark Hamill. But he was good, and I think this is the best that he's ever performed in a Star Wars movie. I think they all did pretty good jobs.
Yeah.
Just by him being the weakest doesn't mean he was bad, though.
It goes to our argument on like there's no such thing as a bad MCU movie.
Yeah.
Even the bad one is better than most of the stuff out there. Mostly same thing with Star Wars. I
just never liked Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, and part of it had to do with the way, I guess, the character was written too. It's just, for most of the series, he's just very whiny, and until Jedi, he's more calm and control and into himself, but that's his worst acting performance too, in Jedi. So, I mean, he's not bad. It's just that Luke, again, I wish they would have gotten someone more tougher to be Luke, but then I guess it wouldn't have been Luke,
Right, it would have been Luke.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't notice how much he's grown by the time you get to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but like I said,
I was going to Tossie Station to like, you'll never turn me. I'm a Jedi like my father before me, so you can appreciate the growth more from the start to the end.
Yeah. Well, you could. I'm going to say David Marcus.
Oh yeah, he was kind of god awful as well.
Yeah, he was supposed to be Kirk's son. Yeah. I just didn't see him as Kirk's son at all. And he just was very annoying. It's like Kirk couldn't do anything right to save his life. He was always putting the blame, everything on Kirk, and I just didn't like him.
Okay, I forgot about him. Yeah, he replaces Johanna. Was that Khan's son?
Man, Tough Jack, yeah. And I watched it and I couldn't tell you, but I was looking at
Okay.
the cast of characters. Yeah, that was his name. All right, so
Okay.
here's fun fact on
So
that.
David Marcus, he's the guy. He's the
Yeah,
worst guy in that.
whoever that actor was. He was in Square Pegs. I don't know if you remember that show.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he was the tall blonde boy. He
Mm-hmm.
was David Marcus. So an interesting fact. So all the male crew of Khan, they were all Chippendale dancers. So that guy that
Little
you didn't
known
like,
facts.
yeah. So that guy that you didn't like, he wasn't really an actor, but he looked good for the role, I guess. I don't know. I wanted to talk.
That's also the one thing about Wrath of Khan, though, that like never made sense to me. You know, Khan is like older and stuff, and like all the guys around him are like young. I mean, were they the? Now I don't remember because I didn't do my homework and rewatch it last night. Were those guys descendants of his crew, or were they his crew from Space Seed?
I think it was his crew because he says at one point, that 300 years ago, these men swore an oath to me, so I think they were his crew. But yeah, I mean, you make a point. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that maybe if they were like maybe 10 years older, a little bit rougher looking, But now that you said they were all Chippendale dancers, it all makes perfect sense.
But they were genetically engineered superhumans. And who knows, maybe Khan left them in the refrigerator a little longer, like they put them in hypersleep or something like that.
2.0 versus Khan 1.0.
And that's the one thing I was going to mention too. What was cool about Khan as a villain is he basically was like Captain America. He was like a super soldier.
Yeah, he was. They all were.
Yeah, they all were, but he was the leader. Like he had the most confidence out of all of them. He wanted to take over the world. But I wanted to get to uniforms. So that's the one thing that I loved about Wrath of Khan.
Oh, they were such a huge improvement over the motion picture. I mean, I don't know.
Those were pajamas.
Well, no, I mean, in Star Trek motion picture, they redesigned the Enterprise for the refit, which I think is just a beautiful design. I have to say, out of both franchises, the Enterprise refit is my all-time favorite ship in science fiction. Love it. They show this and it's beautiful. However, once you go in the Enterprise, everything is like beige or light blue or white. It's like it's such a blah design of the uniforms. And then you get to the Wrath of Khan and they're like, yeah, we threw all that stuff out. Here it is. You've got the red on black with the white accents. You've got badges versus, like real good looking badges. I mean, the uniforms that they introduced in Wrath of Khan were just leaps and bounds over the motion picture. And I those are some of my favorite Star Trek uniforms.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I like them better than the original series episodes.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. My close second favorite is the style that they introduced in the third season of Next Generation, where they went from the single jumpsuit to like two separate pieces.
Yeah.
And I think they went to wool versus spandex. Those were my next favorite. Close second. But the Star Trek post Wrath of Khan original crew uniforms, I really liked them. I thought that was a sharp design.
Yeah, no, I loved it too because I used to watch the original series, and I don't think I hadn't seen the motion picture because I really wasn't interested in seeing it in the movies. And as far as Wrath of Khan, I didn't see this in the movies either. I saw it on VHS. I just wasn't really interested too much in Star Trek. Well, here's the background of my whole Star Trek experience. It was a terrible history. When I was a kid, my sister was going out with a hippie, and he loved Star Trek. So he would come over to the house, and Star Trek would be on at like 5 or 6 o'clock on Channel 11. Meanwhile, the Flintstones were on Channel 5. You know, so he would come down and he would turn on Channel 11 and watch Star Trek, and he's like, and he goes, "The adults are watching TV, man," you know, and he'd be like, "Mr. Spock, he is like so logical, man." And it just made me hate Star Trek as a kid. The only thing I was fascinated in was Mr. Spock because of his ears and stuff like that. So, but I'd rather watch the Flintstones than this boring crap. And back in the 70s, again, you had that, you had Mission Impossible. Did you have Space 1999?
Space 1999, I could never get into.
I
don't know
watched
what it
it.
was. I just could not get into that show.
I like that girl that turned into different creatures. Like she would kind of morph into like gorillas or whatever the hell. And Battlestar Galactica.
That was fun, but hokey as hell.
Yeah. And I guess they had Buck Rogers too, eventually came.
Mm-hmm.
But I got into Star Trek, I think, when I was in high school. Like I was a little bit more adult. As a kid, it's kind of hard to sit through any of that stuff. And my girlfriend at the time, was a big Star Trek fan. So we rented Star Trek 2. She had seen it. I never seen it. And yeah, it kind of blew me away. And then I had to see Star Trek 3 after that. And that was on VHS. I watched that like the week after. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We're talking about uniforms. Right? So I love what they did with it because it was more of like a military look,
Yeah, it was definitely much more military based.
Yeah, it looked like something that you would see like in a naval academy or something like that. And I did research, and I never really noticed. I noticed some of them. They had different collars, different color collars designated what rank you were.
Or not rank, but the division you worked for.
Yeah, you're right.
Like that's why, like McCoy in the original series, he had the blue.
Yeah.
And Spock as well, because that was like the medicine and science. Your gold was command, red was ship services and security. So you didn't want to wear a red shirt. So, but in the movies post Wrath of Khan, I think the collars, it was just the collars, right? Like Spock had like a blue one.
No, Spock had white. Kirk and Spock had white. Yeah, and that was command. McCoy, which I never realized until I watched it just recently, he had green. He had a green collar.
Yeah, it wasn't like a very dark green though. It wasn't.
No, it was like kind of a light green.
Yeah, kind of like a light one that you
very light.
Unless you're really looking, you probably missed it.
Gray was science. And red was cadets, and black were enlisted men and women. I didn't even realize they had black collars, but they did. Like as I was watching people running around, they did have black collars too. But anyway, I just love the look of those outfits, like the uniforms and all that. I so wanted to have one, but back then, nerdom wasn't accepted as much as it is now. People would just beat the crap out of me. Even if I bought it in a store, I'd probably never get home alive.
Probably.
But I had a jacket that I wore to school that looked like it. It had like it opened up like where you would lock it over here. It was great, but I always felt like I was wearing something from that Star Trek, that post Wrath of Khan era. And yeah, it was just kick-ass. It's just such a great uniform.
I was strictly t-shirts.
But yeah, and Star Wars, a lot of it seemed like, well, for Luke anyway, it's well, like in the first one, it was like pajamas basically. The second one is his outfits got a little better. Well, he was in his fighter outfit in the beginning.
Yeah, no, but they're more like fatigues.
Yeah.
Like I do like the tan suit that he wore in Empire. I thought that was just a cool look. If he stuck with that even into the third one, I think I probably would have preferred that.
But what was interesting too, when you look at them, they're very 80-ish. Like what Han was wearing looked like that was is it called Gentlemen's Only? I forget that jacket that they used to have.
Members only?
Members only.
Members only. Okay.
From the 80s, yeah.
Han had more of a, well, I mean, you had Lando, who was completely style with the capes.
A little ridiculous.
But, I mean, Han had, more, I guess, everyday clothes. I think Luke was wearing more of a work clothes kind of thing. Yeah. Like, if you were working a job doing something, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be in the warehouse. I'm not going to wear something nice. Han got to make his own mess, or he just didn't care if what he had got wrecked.
Yeah, and we won't even talk about like stormtroopers and all that. Although the stormtroopers actually, they look pretty cool on Hoth.
The snowtroopers, yes.
I remember my friend used to collect the action figures, and again, he had all the ones from Star Wars, A New Hope, and then when they came out with the snowtroopers, it's like, that's pretty cool. The
Patrick collects the pops, and there must be 30 different stormtroopers upstairs.
Oh, really?
Between the stormtroopers, between clone troopers, between First Order troopers, there's he's got like 30 different varieties, and there's a couple he doesn't have because they're out of print, I guess you want to say, and I'm not spending eBay prices for them.
So bottom line, we got to go with Star Trek for this one.
Yeah. Universe clothes style.
Yeah.
Even though, you know what, I also like the fact that when they went on an away mission, they had like a
leather jacket,
a heavier jacket.
Oh yeah, when it was a coat. Yeah.
I kind of like that they didn't just beam down into regular clothes, no matter what the atmosphere was, no matter what was going on. It's like somebody said, hey, it might be cold in there, put on a coat.
Yeah. No, the design, whatever they did, the costuming and what they built for it, it was really well done. So the musical score. So we had, before you answer, so we have James Horner. He did hold your breath. We had James Horner, who did Star Trek 2. So he did Titanic, he did Avatar, Braveheart, The Rocketeer, which was a really good soundtrack. Glory, I love Glory's music. And then you got John Williams, which he's just tough to beat. You got Superman, Raiders, Jaws, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park.
Yeah, no matter how good you are, you can't put really anybody against John Williams. Even though the music in Star Trek is terrific, I mean, it has hits all the right notes. Like the scene when they're orbiting Regula, and they decide to get the Enterprise ready for battle. It's like dun-dun,
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. I mean, it hits all the right notes to get you psyched up for it, but it's not John Williams.
Yeah, no, I agree.
John Williams scores are iconic. As good as Star Trek Wrath of Khan's soundtrack is, it is not at that level.
And as good as Star Wars A New Hope is, it's not at the level of Empire for me, because that's when he introduced the Imperial March, Yoda's theme.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Leia's theme was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was another thing that improved was the music. It wasn't a complete rehash of the first one. Like I was saying, like how most sequels would fall into that. It's like, all right, we made a ton of money here. Let's just do the same thing all over again. Nope, that wasn't Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, we're gonna give that one to Empire. Who's the better villain? Was it Khan or Darth Vader?
I love Darth Vader, but as I said before, Ricardo Montalban as Khan was just, he's a better villain only because he emotes so much. You know, Darth Vader, as great as he is, you know, he still has that stoic mask that hides most of his emotion. James Earl Jones does a great job giving emotion through the voice, but let's face it, for outright off the wall, banana crazy Khan.
So this is the first one I'm going to disagree with you with. So this is my reasoning. Like we originally were going to do A New Hope, and then I said, well, since it's Star Trek 2 and Empire is the sequel to the original, let's do Empire. And like you said, you know, the actors had more time to breathe in Empire and stuff like that. In A New Hope, Vader really didn't do much. You know, you saw him in the beginning when he's on Leia's ship and all that stuff. And then he's with Tarkin and stuff like that. And then he goes after Luke on the attack of the Death Star. So if this was A New Hope, you know, Khan would win. But with this one, though, he's a little bit more involved. He's a little more threatening. And he's got that big scene with Luke, you know, when he battles with him
Yeah.
on Bespin, you know, in Cloud City and stuff like that.
Like I don't know if were you ever able to track down that video of just the Luke and Vader scenes spliced together? It was on YouTube, and it, when you see it without all the breaks switching the action back and forth, Vader is terrifying in that. You know, and the music score fits as if that whole piece played together. And it builds up tension that Vader is a monster. You know, just like we saw at the end of Rogue One, that Vader is terrifying during that because he just relentlessly beats down Luke Skywalker, you know, and eventually throws him out a window. So, I mean, I get that you say it very threatening, Joe, but to really get that effect out of Empire Strikes Back, track down that.
I will check that out.
Edit.
I mean, what was it? Was he 6'7"? David Prowse.
He's also a huge guy. Yes.
Yeah, he's, you know, when you look at him versus, you know, Luke, it's the size factor. It's very intimidating. And Khan and Kirk never were really battling each other other than ship to ship, you know. Although, you know, again, it was a great battle. So I'm going to have to go with, again, Star Wars on this one. And we already talked about this, so we're not going to get into it. Enterprise.
I also want to point out, I didn't notice it until you had mentioned it on a previous cast, how at the beginning of Star Wars: A New Hope, when Vader gets onto the ship, how mad he is. I think you pointed out, like, I always thought he was still delivered everything. But then after you mentioned it, I went back, and when I watched A New Hope,
yeah,
Vader is pissed off at the beginning when he gets Princess Leia's ship, the Tantive V4. You know, he's like, "You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor." You know, it's not like you're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. You know, he's like, he's mad. You know, like, and like I said, I didn't pick up on that until you had mentioned it, and it kind of put the whole scene into a different perspective.
Well, I think that was partly a mistake. It's like they can't go back and, like, Lucas couldn't go back and fix that. But if he could, I'm sure that would be something that he would do. Have James Earl Jones like redo his lines to be not as aggressive when he's doing that stuff.
But it makes perfect sense how they had him just missed the plans at the end of Rogue One.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's
Okay, I'll
he's
give you
right
that.
there. He's cut through all these troops boarding this ship, and he's just about to get them, and they slip away. It made it that touch in Rogue One really flows well into A New Hope.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say we're not going to go over the ships because you basically said it. You know, yours is the Enterprise, and I agree with you on that. Enterprise versus Falcon. You know, so
I love the Star Wars ships, but like I said, the design of the Enterprise refit. I don't know if you want to talk about also the different. You said like the space battles. That's kind of a tough comparison because you have think about it more as fighter planes versus submarine warfare. You know, which is kind of what two starships, the whole maneuvering and changing depths. That's kind
oh
of what
yeah, no,
Wrath of
it
Khan's.
definitely was, and like with Wrath of Khan, it does. It feels like it's like a nautical battle, like that you would see
Right.
like in an old pirate movie or something like that, which is pretty cool because they don't have the abilities since they went into the Matar Nebula. They don't have shields. Their weapons don't work properly. So it's almost like cannon fire for cannon fire. But it
Yeah,
is,
they like hit on a broadside. They're passing,
yeah,
shooting at each other.
yeah. No, it is. It's such a great scene. Like it's hard to compare battles. I didn't even put that in there, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
such a great
they're two
scene.
different ways. I mean, the Star Wars one is the Star Wars battles are more fun, only because there's a lot more things flying around. But the Star Trek battles have their merits as well. They're
Oh
also
yeah.
very cool and exciting.
So hyperspace or warp speed,
Which
which
is better?
yeah.
Warp speed.
You think warp speed? Why would
Warp
you say
speed,
that?
absolutely.
Why?
Hyperspace is light speed. You know, they break light speed and they're in this other area to go, which does shorten the distance. But warp speed, every time you go to warp, you're going to another power. Warp 1 is light speed, but warp 2 is the speed of light squared. Warp 3 is the speed of light cubed. You know, so warp speed is like ridiculous fast, but that's what you got to do to keep a show going. Like you really can't have the characters start like, okay, take me to Rigel, and you know, 2 weeks later, you know, or years later, you know, you get there. So but it still gives a way to measure the speed. Hyperspace is just that is sort of the quick fix. George Lucas is like, how do we get these people from one place to another? Oh yeah, let's just have them go into hyperspace. How fast is it? We don't know. We don't have to put a number on it. This is space fantasy, not science fiction. Star Trek is science fiction, so everything has to have a scale or measure to it. Star Wars is just like, oh, we're in hyperspace, and that fixes everything. You go in, and yeah, you might wait a little while, and then you come out somewhere else. So, but warp speed is just more measurable.
I thought hyperspace was faster than warp speed. That you got there faster to your destination than you would warp speed.
Well, you can look at it as warp speed could be anything you want. I mean, hyperspace could be anything you want. Look at, and I know you hate the movie, but Rise of Skywalker, when the Falcon is hyperspace skipping,
Mm.
you know, they're ending up at different planets every second as they go.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, who knows how far those planets were apart?
That's yeah. I never even thought about
You
that.
know,
That's
you
interesting.
don't know. Hyperspace, it just works as the plot demands.
Mm.
There's no rationale or anything to it. It's just like, boom, you're there. You know, move the story along. You know, and Star Trek loves breaking into science and the details. In fact, for some reason, you started me thinking about Star Trek again. And I remember there was a problem with Star Wars where they were always very concerned because they didn't want Star Wars to look like Star Trek. And this isn't just in Empire Strikes Back. This is further down the line as well through the whole Star Wars saga, that they didn't want the ships to look like things out of Star Trek. So I started thinking like, well, let me think about Star Trek for a second here. And a lot of the ships have similar components to it in Star Trek. And I'm sure out there somebody has a reason that there's always at least 2 nacelles. And this is what you think of when the store is so slow because you have an ice storm outside. They always have two nacelles, and either they're separate or they're incorporated into the ship somehow. But whether you're looking at Federation, Romulan, Klingon, Dominion, anyone else, it's always 2. And I wonder if somebody out there in Star Trek said, well, yeah, you have to have 2. Because, that's just Star Trek. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who's going to write something like, well, yes, with warp speed, you need a positive charge and a negative charge to create the fields to generate. And I'm thinking like, I bet there's got to be an explanation for that out there somewhere, that it's something like that. Where Star Wars, all you have are big engines on the back, once again, work like the plot needs it to work.
Yeah, and I know you made a good point. I mean, and that actually changed my answer, so I'll agree with you.
Like I said, Star Trek always works some sort of science into even their ship design. So, it's fun, but like I said, Star Wars is more fun because you can make anything crazy enough to suit the story.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the last one. So which is the most shocking moment, or which was most impactful?
A shocking moment?
Vader telling Luke.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That was much more than,
the death of Spock.
Spock dying or Kirk giving his Khan yell. That moment where Darth Vader, he like cuts off Luke's hand, and just when you think like, oh heck, what is he going to do to him now? He drops a bombshell like that. And I remember it in the theater when I heard it. I remember Patrick's mind being completely blown when he saw it on screen. I think that's got to be the kicker. How about you?
It's a tough one, because if you think about it, Spock for 3 years, or Leonard Nimoy for 3 years, played Spock, and then I guess he was in the motion picture too.
Oh, emotionally packed?
Well,
it's gotta be Spock dying.
I'm gonna just say shocking moment,
Okay.
But I guess my point is, yeah, I agree with you. Like, that just blew me away, because it's like, there's no way in hell that this could even be true, that he's his father, because Obi-Wan told him that he killed his father.
Right.
So how could this be? And Obi-Wan wouldn't lie to Luke. And it just was like, what? No. And this came before Wrath of Khan. So you kind of wonder if they wanted to try to outbeat what they had just done in Empire. So like, well, what can we do? We'll kill off Spock. He's like the most popular character.
What? No, I think Leonard Nimoy wanted to move on to direct other projects. Which is why they brought in Savick sort of as a protege kind of replacement.
Well, yeah, but I think that's still, this is my theory. I'm not saying that that's the case, but he also left it open. He was the one that came up with that whole mind meld thing, yeah.
There's always a trap door.
Yeah. Cause they weren't planning on doing that. It's almost like he did it like at the last second to kind of like, well,
just in case
maybe they'll want me to come back, but they offer me enough money,
drive up the truck.
But it was, back in the day, it was shocking that Spock was dead. Like one of the most popular characters on the series was now dead. And I think he was probably the favorite character on the series. I would say that he'd probably beat out Captain Kirk.
Well, a lot of people they really liked Spock as the counterbalance to Kirk, and Spock, but Spock was extremely popular. I would say most Star Trek fans couldn't choose between the two.
I think they could. I just think Spock was super popular. It was almost like he was the face of that series. It's like if you were going to advertise for Star Trek, all you had to do is have some guy with pointy ears. Like you couldn't necessarily tell if that was William Shatner. I'm just saying, like, if somebody had to draw something, but if you drew something with pointy ears, you knew exactly what it was. It was Vulcan.
Oh, well, it's the ears, it's the haircut.
Yeah, and the eyebrows.
Straight.
Yeah.
Across, and Spock it's an iconic look.
But no, I'm gonna go with you.
Though, you mentioned Spock dying, though. I mean, emotionally, that is a tough scene because you've been this character so much more from the series and even what happened in the motion picture. Like, I would say you had more of an emotional connection to Spock dying.
And
I know
also
someone who used to, even in repeats, even multiple viewings, she'd always kind of get a little misty when Spock died.
Did. I watched it last night and I got the chills, when he's saying goodbye to Kirk.
Oh, the first time, not after that for me, but it's just, that is a moment that affects people.
But he's also
even after multiple showings.
But he's also making a sacrifice at that moment too. He's saving the Enterprise and the crew.
Oh no, the whole thing. He does it to save his shipmates and his friends and the people who accepted him when Vulcan culture kind of turned their backs on him. Like, no, this is a big moment. This is giving it all for your friends.
Yes, I mean, it is tough, but I think that the whole Vader telling Luke that he's his father is just...
That's shock value. That's like, oh my God, what just happened?
And they really could never replicate that in the Star Wars films after that.
I don't think they could top that.
I always thought that they were going to do... Well, he had hinted in the prequels that he was going to reveal something shocking, He never did.
What? I would almost say, though, Vader's turn does come close. When Vader picks up the Emperor, because no one saw that coming in the day. You're like, how is Luke Skywalker?
That's true. You're right. You are very right. But it's still not that moment, but it's very close. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but what's ruined that moment is the new versions. Like, when it was happening in the original version, Vader's looking back and forth, but when he's now he's no, like, it's coming. But like I said, back in the day, I remember when Vader picked up the Emperor and threw him, the place went nuts. There wasn't a kernel of popcorn left in a bucket anywhere in that theater.
Well, that's what was funny too when you think about it. Like when Vader told Luke he was his father, I remember being in the theater and it was silence. It was like,
it's like in when they thought that Chewbacca was killed in the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. But when Vader made the turn to being good again, people just flipped out and were hugging each other. And it's like you saw it coming. It's like, even though he can't talk, you're like, they did a zoom in on his face, No,
it's like, you're like looking like, what's wrong with him? What the heck is going on? Like, you're looking left and right the same way Vader is looking left and right on the screen.
And but even before that, he didn't look left and right. They slowly zoomed into Vader's face while all this was going on. And that's when everyone started to get up and they were like, do it, do it.
Oh no, I just remember the place being dead calm, like kids starting to cry, like, oh my God, Luke Skywalker's gonna die. And then like I said, he picked him up and the place exploded and went nuts.
Yeah, well, that's for another time. We'll get to that eventually.
Okay.
But yeah, what kind of took away with Spock dying was like what you said, like with Chewbacca. Chewbacca being dead, that would have been very impactful. Seeing him 10 minutes later, not as impactful.
Yeah.
Spock dying, that's impactful. Knowing that the sequel is called The Search for Spock, not too impactful, knowing that he's coming back.
Yeah, but you had no idea the next thing was coming because they
Well,
had
back
introduced
then.
Zack.
Well, but in my, like the way I viewed it on VHS.
Oh, well, yeah, you knew the title of the next movie, so you
Yeah.
kind of got spoiled a little bit there.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do a quick count here. Sing something or something. 4, 5. Actually, Star Trek wins.
Star Trek won, really?
Very slightly. I think it's very, very close. It's like by like a point away, but I think it's very minor. It's not really an exact science, you know.
Absolutely not.
Because again, like if we were to go what our favorite one is, like if we had to watch one movie over and over again, I think it would be Empire over Wrath of Khan. They're both good movies, but and they have really great moments and stuff like that.
And I have to say, Wrath of Khan is also the second movie that I bought in multiple formats.
Me too.
Like we've talked about before, like how many versions of Star Wars we had. I had Wrath of Khan on tape. I had it on DVD, and now I have it on Blu-ray. So like, it's just one of those things. It's like, I'll get the new version. No, it's coming out. Oh, this looks clear. I'll get that one. You know, the same way we did with Star Wars. So we bought VHS, then we bought VHS widescreen, then we bought DVD, then we bought Blu-ray. You know, it's the same sort of thing. It's one of those movies that endures.
Yeah. So I'm not going to do email, but I'm going to get a little into trivia. And we did discuss some of the trivia, so hopefully let's go a little faster. So with Wrath of Khan, Kim Cattrall was Nicholas Meyer's first choice to play Saavik in the Wrath of Khan. I didn't know that either. You know, he really wanted her, but she was unavailable. So they went with Kirstie Alley. But she plays, she was in...
the sixth one. Undiscovered Country.
What was her name? Oh, Valeris, Lieutenant Valeris. She was in there. And what was it? She was Vulcan. Kirstie I can't say her name. Kirstie Alley's character of Saavik, she was Vulcan and Romulan.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was a little more emotional than, you know, Spock was, because like, you know, she cried at the end when during Spock's funeral.
Well, she was also a little bit more argumentative as well.
Yeah.
Like she was always trying to like
side.
Wiggle around the rules somehow, you know?
So yeah, I'm not sure. I think that she was completely Vulcan Valeris, like in the sixth one. And she was good in that, you know, and this is the one from Sex and the City. You would never imagine her, you know, basically being.
Well, this is before that.
Yeah, but that was pretty damn cool. So the original title for this movie was Star Trek: The Genesis Project. It's like, yeah, we get it. The Genesis Project.
Yeah, all right. Not as attention grabbing as Wrath of Khan.
No. And then the next title that they chose was Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country.
That was what they wanted to call it too?
They did. They wanted to call it The Undiscovered Country, and eventually what they did is they used that for 6. And then they wanted to call it The Vengeance of Khan. But they decided against that because Return of the Jedi was coming out, and back then it was called...
that's right, the old Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah. So Wrath of Khan's pretty cool.
Hey, it works.
This I found really interesting because a lot of Star Trek fans have said this in conventions, and you hear it all the time. How does Khan remember Chekhov if Walter Koenig was never in Space Seed? He wasn't part of the cast or crew back then.
Well,
So, but no, this is funny.
okay.
So Walter Koenig was asked this at a convention, and he said that Chekhov made Khan wait in line for the toilet once, and that's why Khan has such a vivid memory of him. And after he said that, and I watched that scene where he goes up to was it Paul Winfield, and he goes, "You, I don't know, but you, I never forget the face." you kind of like imagine like that he's really got to go, and like Chekhov is in there for half an hour, like reading the paper or something like that. So
Well, I mean, Chekhov could have been on the ship. He just wasn't
he
on the
was.
screen.
They admit they made a mistake, but to correct it, Chekhov was actually part of the security team, and he actually helped he helped prevent Khan from taking over the engine room. He did a lot of sacrifice or a lot of fighting, and so he was remembered for doing that, and that's why he was promoted and became a member of the bridge or whatever the hell he was. That's what they were.
I don't know.
When Spock advises Kirk during the battle with Khan in the Matara Nebula, he says that Khan's move indicates two-dimensional thinking. So that was actually in reference to the chess that they would play, since the chess back then that Khan knew of was just two-dimensional, but the chess that they played on Star Trek was three-dimensional. And that's why when you see it's 3 levels of the chessboard, when you see it in the series, how you see all these scenes where like the Enterprise is hovering above the Reliant, like that's like way above. So it's almost like a chess game, which I thought that was kind of cool. I never knew that. I thought that was
That's a good analogy. I never thought of that
one.
Maybe Chekhov got the last donut in the mess hall or something.
The people behind the effects for the Genesis device was actually originally the company that eventually went on to become Pixar.
Really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like Lucasfilm sold Pixar, I think, or they went off on their own at one point, but that was the division that worked on that whole Genesis project. And I remember back in the day, that was like ridiculous because it cost them like, I think $1 million to make that scene for that whole Genesis.
Well, they squeezed a lot of use out of that too. I think they used that in 3 different movies.
They used it in 3 and 4 too, because they spent so much money for the damn thing. And that was the first computer generated thing I think ever to be done in movies, like something like that. So it costs a lot of money. The original idea, what happened was when Star Trek the Motion Picture came out, it didn't do good at the box office, and it got panned by critics and fans and stuff like that. So Paramount, I agree. So Paramount had no faith in Gene Roddenberry, so he was demoted, like where he had less control. And I think they gave it to Harv Bennett, had the power, or they ended up going with Wrath of Khan, a sequel to one of the shows that they had. But the original story behind that Roddenberry wanted to do would be based on the Guardians of Forever, and that it was it was the crew of the Enterprise travels back in time to set right a corrupted timeline after Klingons used the Guardian of Forever to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So that was the original story that they were going to do. I don't think that would have been a good episode on TV. I can't see it being a good movie though. Something of it being rewatchable and all that stuff.
Not as the first one.
And what's going to happen. Kenny's going to have to die. It's kind of like with.
Well, that's when they had the whole
Edith
point
Keeler
of the Guardian of Forever on the episode
Yeah.
that Joan Collins had to die or the whole timeline would be shot.
Yeah. So it's almost like a waste to do something like that. I mean, it's interesting, but again,
What's
I'd
her
rather
name?
see it as an episode. Oh, Joan Collins?
Joan Collins.
Yeah.
I think it was Edith Keller for some reason.
Oh, yeah, I said it was Heath Keller. Yeah. So, Desilu Productions was behind Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, was Desilu. So the board had voted on whether or not to produce Star Trek, the series, back in the day, and they decided not to do it. And Lucy was the one that vetoed them and said that she thinks it would be an interesting idea. And so she's responsible for Star Trek existing, basically.
Yeah, I remember hearing that story.
All right, so here's some Star Wars trivia I have. Carrie Fisher was so short. Not gonna do
How short was she?
She was so short that she had to stand on a box while she was next to Harrison Ford. She was 5'1" and he was 6 feet. So for most of their scenes, she was standing on a box.
Okay.
When Han Solo was about to be frozen in carbonite.
How frozen was he?
Shut up. We got to get through this.
I know, we're already at the 2.5 hour mark.
Princess Leia says, "I love you." In the original script, Han Solo was supposed to say, "Just remember that, Leia, because I'll be back." But at the time, Harrison Ford really didn't want to come back. And he discussed it, I guess, with Irving Kershner. And they changed it to "I know."
I thought he had lived that.
No, it wasn't ad-lib. That was also like one of those rumors. But they discussed it beforehand. But they had to change it. It was a way to get rid of Han Solo just in case he wasn't going to come back. Just putting him in carbonite. Let's see here. The scenes where R2-D2 is submerged in the mud pool on Dagobah was shot in Lucas's unfinished swimming pool.
Really? I thought they just had that. The same sound stage they use for most of them when they make those really big sets.
Yeah, over in England.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
I forget the name of the studios, but I thought that was it. I didn't realize it was in.
But now that that they mentioned, I could see that because you see a close up of R2 and his antenna up and everything.
Right.
It does look like it could be a swimming pool, and they might have just had dry ice, like making the fog. Originally, the asteroid scene, one of the asteroids was actually a shoe. The rumor is that George Lucas asked the visual effects people to redo the scene so many times that they got annoyed, and one of them threw in his or her shoe. Later,
I remember there's also supposedly a sneaker flying around in Return of the Jedi in the big battle scene.
And there's a potato in the asteroid scene too. But when they did the special editions, they took out the shoe. So Jim Henson was first offered the role of Yoda, but he was busy doing the Great Muppet Caper, and he suggested Frank Oz to do the role instead. So in the original draft of the movie, Darth Vader was not Luke's father. The character of Anakin Skywalker actually appears in the movie as a Force ghost to train Luke. Anakin's character was later split into two, in which Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda.
That would have been weird.
Well,
no, they already had they already established the Force ghost in the first one, so maybe that wouldn't have been too much of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, that worked out well the way it did, but you never know what the hell could have been different. The scene with Darth Vader and the Emperor, you remember seeing that? Like,
that they reworked.
So
the first guy, he just looked like a guy with like goggles on or something.
There was a woman. It was an American actress.
Was it a woman? I just
Yeah,
remember just the eyes looked sort of like goggles, kind of.
they were
Or,
chimpanzee eyes that they used. Probably rubber. I don't think they were actual chimpanzee. So this is another myth that I believed was true, that Mark Hamill, he did have an accident, a car accident. It was really bad. And
Mhm.
that's why they had that scene like where he had all the scars after meeting the Wampa. Um, that they explained that that's where his scars were. It was to cover that up. Apparently that was all BS, that he didn't have any facial scars after the accident.
I don't know, because his face looks much, much different in the
But
later
he
movies.
eh,
Like in Return of the Jedi, I think his face
he might
looks
have had
different.
some surgery or something like that.
Mm.
And um, Irving Kershner decided that he wanted all the rebels to speak with American accents and all the Imperial officers to speak with British accents.
I didn't notice that. Well, I always noticed the Imperials always kind of spoke.
They're very British.
Yes.
The sound of Vader's helmet being lowered onto his body was the sound of someone putting their hand over a vacuum tube while it was sucking in dust.
I've heard that one though.
Mm, this is the first movie to have 5.1 surround sound mix. The lightsaber fight scenes set in the carbon freezing chamber tend to focus on Luke. This is because during many of the shots, Bob Anderson, who was Vader's fight double, was not wearing the Darth Vader helmet because it made him difficult to breathe.
Hmm. I didn't notice that. I always thought it seemed kind of even.
Well, we had heard this too. Boba Fett's action figure was originally to have a rocket firing mechanism, but I thought that the rumor I had heard is that some kid did get a hand of that figure, shot the rocket, went into his mouth, choked, died to death. But apparently it was because it was a Battlestar Galactica toy that was very similar to it that came out before in 1978. Some kid shot the rocket into his mouth and he died of choking. So then Kenner decided, no, we're not going to have that.
Yeah, I remembered the Battlestar Galactica toys because when they first came out, it had the little missile that would shoot. And then the later ones would just go like blink, like only come out a little bit and then it would stop.
I was one of those people that thought that there were some Boba Fett action figures that actually did have rockets that did fire, but I was wrong.
Hmm.
James Earl Jones believed that Darth Vader was lying about being Luke's father until he read the script for Return of the Jedi. So did I. I didn't realize that he was actually his father until I read a Time magazine article, and they had asked, which was weird. They asked Lucas, was Vader really his father? And he said yes. And I was like, whoa,
Who would have thought Darth Vader would tell a lie?
In the medical bay, when Luke is recovering and when Leia kisses him and he puts his hands behind his head, he's actually imitating the scene of Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon when he is playing C-3PO.
Oh,
With,
okay.
I didn't catch that, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. He's kind of like almost showing it to Chewie. Like Chewie's trying to show you his hot stuff. Back then, Luke was kind of repeating that. It was kind of cool. George Lucas envisioned the scene where the Millennium Falcon escapes the giant space slug as a comedic scene, and he was really disappointed when the audiences didn't react to that way.
I thought it was cool. I didn't think it was comedic.
Well, but he expected it to be. I think he didn't like Irving Kershner. He always says that this is his least favorite Star Wars movie. And I guess he kind of blames him in a way, although he didn't handle special effects. George did. Bottom line is he was hoping people would laugh. Shortly after the release, Darth Vader's name was changed to Lord Fenner in Italy. That is because the word Vader in Italian sounds like toilet.
Strange Star Wars stuff.
During his battle with Darth Vader, Luke's hand is severed and he loses his lightsaber, once used by Anakin and Darth Vader and given to Luke by Obi-Wan. As part of the expanded universe, and you might know this, Luke's hand and lightsaber were recovered and kept by the Emperor as trophies. Later, the hand was used to create a clone of Luke that also wielded the lost lightsaber. After the clone's death, Luke presented the lightsaber to Mara Jade, his wife.
The good old Zorn trilogy.
So this was filmed, the studios that it was filmed in was the same studio that filmed Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Pinewood.
That's it, Pinewood Studios. Author Stephen King visited the set, and many aspects of the movie affected King's later work. Directing Irving Kershner was nicknamed Kirsch on the set. King's novel It features a character named Mrs. Kirsch, who sounds like Yoda.
Okay.
Billy D. Williams had previously auditioned for the role of Han Solo in A New Hope, and he finally landed the role of Lando Calrissian. But that was Lucas's original idea, was he wanted Han Solo to be a black male. But I think he was a lizard at first, wasn't he? The original draft, like he wasn't human. He had a tail, and he had scales.
Solo had a tail. I know Chewbacca was eventually the design they used in Rebels.
Yeah,
but
no,
I don't
Han Solo.
Han
No,
Solo being a lizard.
He definitely was, like when it was called the Star Wars. That's what it was. But no, I found that interesting.
Star Killer.
I think in a way they probably should have gone with Billy D. Williams for Han Solo, just because I think that would have changed movies in a way, you know?
It could have, definitely. But Billy D. Williams, I mean,
oh, he was great.
He's definitely the coolest cat in the universe. Lando
he is. And he's a great actor. I mean,
he is.
Lady Sings the Blues, Mahogany. He's really good. I love him. I remember I had seen Billy D. Williams at Hollywood Studios when they had Star Wars weekends, and he had mentioned this story that when he would pick up his kids from school, you know, the kids would argue with him, you know, that he betrayed Han Solo.
Your dad's the worst. What he did to Han Solo.
So it's often believed that the Wampa that attacked Luke when he is riding his Tauntaun is the same Wampa in the ice cave, and it's not. The book Inside the Worlds of the Star Wars trilogy labels the events before and during the Battle of Hoth and clearly describes a male and female Wampa. So there were two Wampas.
Okay. I thought there was only the one, but
Yoda in the novel is depicted as having blue skin, and I remember getting the comic book adaptation, and Yoda was blue, and I thought that they messed up, and it really annoyed me. I was like, he's green. Why would they make him blue? In the final scene where Lando and Chewbacca go and find Han, Lando is seen wearing Han's clothes that he wears at the first introduction of Han Solo in Star Wars: A New Hope, which was, I never understood that, and they never.
That's kind of weird.
While Yoda is training Luke in the ways of the Force, he instructs him that it is never to be used for attack. When Luke confronts Vader in the later scenes, he disobeys the advice, striking the first blow and proving he is not yet ready to be a Jedi. Let's see. Sorry. So the movie's novelization was published a month before the movie came out, and it revealed that Vader was Luke's father. So
I do remember that.
I don't remember that at all. Like, you would think that more people would have known that, you know?
I remember the book coming out first. I stopped reading it because I'm like,
That would have sucked.
yeah. Basically, I stopped reading it because it's like I was like, I couldn't. My little kid brain couldn't process like a lot of stuff I was already reading. Like I couldn't picture what the walkers looked like from reading the book, you know, and as snow speeders, like the speeders, I kept thinking it was like, you know, scooters. I couldn't remember it, so I didn't quite get to the end. And I'm glad I didn't.
All right, so the last one here. So for the scene in the cave when Darth Vader's mask splits open to reveal Luke's face, a prop head was initially used, but the result was very dissatisfying. So the scene was reshot, this time with Mark Hamill's head pushed through a hole behind the mask. I thought that was a mask or like
I
a
thought that was
prosthetic.
a mannequin head or something.
Yeah, because I thought it looked fake. You know,
Yeah,
I'll have to watch that again, but apparently that's Hamill's head. You know,
really. Okay, you're right. It always looked fake. I didn't think that was really him, but okay.
all right, let's wrap this one up. Jack, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
You can always send me an email at jackm@wdwnt.com, and I will answer whatever your questions or say hello or whatnot.
Lend you some money.
No, don't send me any money.
No, I said lend you money.
Oh, lend me money?
No, not you. You lend them money. Like you were saying, I'll answer any of your questions. All right, let's.
No money. No cash transactions.
And if you want, you can email me at joe@wdwnt.com or send me a friend request on Facebook. Also, if you like our show and enjoy other WDWNT podcasts and would like to become a Patreon supporter, please visit WDWNT's Patreon page at www.patreon.com/WDWNT. And check out Walt Disney World News Today and Universal Parks News Today for all your Disney and Universal news. And please visit the carousel of products where there is a ton of fun WDWNT merchandise on sale. Not going to say anything for a change?
Nope.
Finally, please subscribe to the WDWNT Entertainment Channel, where you can find Nerd Alert and other WDWNT original programming available there.
And you'll get a tote bag and a little chip clip.
I knew it was coming. So with that, this will be the end of WDWNT Nerd Alert Season 7, Episode number 5. So until next time, see ya.
Good night, and be good to each other.